Songwriters on one side plus artist, sound recordings, on the other side. How to get all your music royalties ASCAP, BMI, PRS, SoundExchange, Pros, and the rest DSP digital service providers. How to register works in the MLC portal. The only way to receive any digital audio mechanical royalties aka streaming and download royalties due to you from the DSPs or digital service providers operating under the blanket mechanical license is to register your works with the MLC. You can register works individually, or if you have a large number of works to register and you have a publisher IPI number, you can upload works in bulk. Registration history is a record of new work submissions or updates to existing works. Registrations or updates will be saved here for years from the date of submission. If you can't complete an individual registration in the moment, you can save what you have in the registration draft section for up to months. The only things that are required for a work registration are work title, publisher name and share, writer name, and writer role. All other information is optional, but we recommend including as much information as you have. It's important to note that the MLC does not have the option for a writer share because % of digital audio mechanical royalties are paid to the publisher. The publisher is then responsible for paying out any agreed upon amount of royalties to the songwriter, composer, or lyricist. Snorts: if you are the sole publisher of a work, you should claim % of the share for your member. Typically, anyone that helped create a musical work is entitled to shares of that work. That said, this is dependent on the agreement between the writers and publishers of the work. If you are the sole writer, you likely have a large share, whereas other roles may vary. Please note that if you collaborated with other songwriters to create a work, you will need to agree with them on the percentage of shares owned per contributor. If you want to see if someone has already claimed a share of ownership in your work, you can conduct a public search on the MLC portal by selecting the magnifying glass in the upper right-hand corner. You can also utilize the claiming tool in the MLC portal to claim shares on an already existing work. If you have not written or composed the work, you do not need to register it with the MLC, as you will not be able to collect digital audio mechanical royalties from that work. For example, if you covered a song that you did not write, you do not need to register that work with the MLC. If you have a publisher IPI number, you can utilize our bulk work registration process. You will need to download the bulk work registration template. Fill out each column with as much information as you have for each work and then upload it. The template has a maximum of rows, so you may need to upload multiple documents if you have a large amount of works to register. Please note that publishing information should only be entered for shares that you control. Please do not enter publishing and shares information for publishers that you do not represent. Every member is responsible for claiming their own shares in each work. You can locate your IPI number through your performing rights organization, aka your pro, by either searching on your pro's website or contacting your pro directly. It's important to note that you don't need an IPI to register works individually with the MLC. However, you will need one if you want to upload many works using our bulk work upload feature. So now I'm going to give you a demonstration of the individual registration tool. I can find this option on the left-hand side of the portal. Going to click here. First, you will be prompted to search to see if the work already exists. This is really important to prevent duplicate work registrations. If you find that your work doesn't already exist by using the search function, you can click Create New Work. There's two options here. The first is to use the wizard, which is recommended for first-time users. The second is to skip to the form, and this is recommended for advanced users. I'm going to use the wizard this time. So I input some information before and it populated here. So I've got the work title here. I can add the duration of the song. I can add the language that it's in. If I have my own work identifier that I use for my records, I can add that here. I can add the copyright registration number or date, the ISWC code, and additionally, I can add alternative titles. We definitely encourage you to add as much information as you have, but most of this information is optional. Once I have input all this information, I can click Next. And at any point in time, I can click Save for later if I want to save this as a draft. The next step here is to add writers to your work. So, I'm going to click the plus sign here, and I'm going to search to see if this writer name already exists. And I can see that there's a couple results that populate here. I'm going to say that this one is the one that I need. I'm going to add Paul McCartney as the writer. Click Next. Then I'm going to select the proper writer role for Paul McCartney. I'm going to select Composer Author and then click Next. Now I need to select the publisher name that I need to add. And fortunately you can see that my publisher name is already populated as a suggested result. So I'm just going to click Add here and then hit Next. Now I need to add my publisher share in the work. Say I have % shares in this work. Going to click Next. And now it wants me to connect the represented writer to my publisher. So I'm going to click here and then link the writer that I added to my publisher. I'll click Next. Now I have the ability to add recording information if I want to. We definitely recommend that you do this, but it's not necessary. Now I'm going to add the relevant recording information. I can also add the duration, the label, and the ISRC code, which is definitely helpful if you have it, but optional. I'm going to click Add Recording. Now I've got this information here. Then I'm clicking Next. And now I'm at the review stage where I can confirm that I have added all the information I needed to. And now I'm clicking Submit. Click Create to confirm. And you can see that yesterday was successfully submitted. And now I'm going to click Done. And I can see that submission populated in my registration history. You can see the submission date was March th. And I can see that the status is currently submitted, which means the MLC has received your submission and it's currently in submitted status. Eventually, it will either change to superseded, rejected, or accepted. I can look through the 3 tabs in my registration history to see a record of all my submissions from the last years. If the work does not already exist in the MLC database, you can use the individual registration tool to register a brand new work. You can also use the bulk upload feature if you have a publisher IPI and need to register works in bulk. As always, please feel free to reach out to the MLC support team if you have any other questions. Explanation of statutory rates for digital audio mechanical uses. Explanation of statutory rates for digital audio mechanical uses. The royalties that the MLC collects from DSPs and distributes to members are calculated using the statutory royalty rates. The rates vary depending on how the sound recording of the musical work/song is distributed. For example, the rate is different for permanent downloads, the rate is a fixed amount per sale, and various types of interactive streaming offerings, the rate is a formula that results in an amount per play. We have created 2 documents and a short video to help our members and others understand the rates. Explanation of statutory rates for digital audio mechanical uses, PDF. Click here to view/download a document that explains how the rates are determined and used in calculating royalties. Statutory royalty rate formula tables, PDF. The digital music royalties landscape. Where does the MLC fit in? The digital music royalties landscape is complex. Copyright law establishes a number of different rights for both musical works and sound recordings, and each of these rights has the potential to produce its own separate royalty stream. For more information about the differences between musical works and sound recordings, and between different types of digital services offerings, visit the music industry terminology page of our FAQs. The MLC plays a critical role in administering royalties for a specific set of rights for musical works digital audio mechanical royalties. However, the MLC does not replace other organizations like SoundExchange and the various performing rights organizations, PROs, in the United States, which administer royalties for other rights. The graphic below shows several of the royalty streams related to the digital distribution of music and some of the key organizations that administer those royalties. The MLC Digital Music Royalties Landscape English X Digital _key organizations. The Mechanical Licensing Collective, the MLC. The MLC collects digital audio mechanical royalties from eligible streaming and download services in the United States who elect to secure a blanket compulsory license, created by section of the U.S. copyright law, from the MLC and pays them to its members, music publishers and administrators, ex-US collective management organizations, CMOs, and self-administered songwriters, composers, and lyricists. The MLC is the only organization in the United States authorized to administer the blanket compulsory digital audio mechanical license and related royalties. If you are based outside of the US, you may have a choice to either join the MLC or have a mechanical rights organization based in your home country collect your royalties from us. Contact the organization in your home country to determine your options. Click here for a list by country. Organizations that pay voluntary mechanical royalties. These organizations fall into two subcategories: companies who provide licensing and royalties administration services to publishers, and digital services who have entered into voluntary digital audio streaming mechanical licenses, and record companies who secure voluntary mechanical licenses for downloads. In both cases, they typically pay royalties to music publishers, publishing administrators, and self-administered songwriters, composers and lyricists. Performing rights organizations. These organizations, often referred to as pros for short, collect performance royalties from entities responsible for presenting the performance, such as radio stations, nightclubs, and digital service providers, and pay them on to songwriters, composers, lyricists, music publishers and publishing administrators. There are several performing rights organizations in the United States, including ASCAP, BMI, Alltrack, SESIC, and GMR. If you are based outside of the US, contact one in your home country to explore your options. Click here for a list by country. Sound recording distributors and aggregators. These organizations provide distribution services to sound recording copyright owners, including self-released recording artists. In some cases, a record distributor may be a division in a global entertainment company which also owns record companies. In other cases, it may be a standalone company. SoundExchange. SoundExchange collects sound recording digital performance royalties from non-interactive digital streaming services and digital radio providers who elect to secure a statutory license in the United States, created by sections N of the U.S. copyright law, and pays them to featured artists, non-featured artists, and sound recording copyright owners. SoundExchange is the only organization in the United States authorized to administer the statutory sound recording digital performance license and royalties. If you are based outside of the US, this can be complicated. Contact one in your home country to explore your options. Click here to see a list by country. The MLC's tools. The MLC has created a suite of tools that allows its members to easily manage their musical work, aka song, data. Learning how to use these tools effectively is one of the best ways you, as a member, can play your part. Trademark in the MLC process and ensure you receive all your digital audio mechanical royalties for streaming. The MLC icon's magnifying glass. Look for your songs with the Public Work Search. The Public Work Search is the MLC's publicly available database that offers the general public access to our registered song data. When, anytime, and all the time. It is easy to search and share song data while you're on the go. Why? Ensuring the accuracy of your song data is an ongoing process. We encourage all songwriters, lyricists, and composers, and those who work with them, to utilize the Public Work Search. It's an all-hands-on-deck approach to ensuring the data is correct so that right shoulders get paid what they are entitled to. How? Anyone can use the Public Work Search to search for, review and share song data. If you notice one of your songs is missing information, you can share a link to that specific works page, by clicking the Copy Work Link button, with your publisher or co-writer. If you are an MLC member and want to view the same song with more detail or make changes, log into your portal account. If you are not a member but you notice an error in your song data, please contact our support team here. The MLC icons claiming tool. Claim your shares of songs using the claiming tool. The claiming tool allows members to easily search the MLC's database within the MLC portal for partially claimed songs and claim their shares. When after you've logged into your portal account, use the claiming tool to search for your song and to see if all the shares are claimed. Why claiming your share of a song is an important step in collecting all your royalties. Our database contains a lot of song data, so check to see if yours is there first. Sometimes only a portion of the song shares have been claimed, and sometimes no shares have been claimed, which means someone is missing out on money. How if you find a song that is missing your share, you can easily claim your part using the claiming tool to start receiving your royalties. So if you see your song, or a song you've worked on, listed without your name attached to it, claim it. If you see that a song is missing altogether, you can move forward with the Works registration tools to get the song in our system. Register tool icon light blue. Register new songs using our Works registration tools. Our Works registration tools within the MLC portal allow members to register songs that are not already in our database. Before you register a song in the portal, check the claiming tool first. Someone could have already registered it for you, meaning all you need to do is claim your share. If your song does not show up in the claiming tool, go ahead and register it. Why the only way to receive your streaming royalties is to register your songs with the MLC. Once a song is registered, the MLC gets to work to pay the royalties. How? Depending on how many songs you need to register, there are a few options. From individual work registration to bulk works registrations to common works registration, CWR, you can choose what works best for you. Matching tool icon light blue. Match sound recordings to your songs with the matching tool. The matching tool within the MLC portal allows members to propose matches of sound recordings, ISRCs, to their songs. It's always a good time to check the matching tool to see if you have a missed connection. Since we continually receive new recording data from DSPs and add it to our database, it's important to regularly make sure all the data lines up so you can get paid. Why? If we don't have all the data to match a right shoulder to their song, we can't pay them properly. Making connections gets you closer to getting paid your royalties. How? The MLC performs both an automated and a manual matching process to attempt to match as many sound recordings to songs as possible. The data in the matching tool is what remains unmatched after the MLC's process. Here's where you come in. If this data remains unmatched, the MLC can't pay out the royalties. Looking, and listening, through these recordings to match yours ensures you get paid the royalties you are due. The MLC icons banking. And here's your friendly reminder. Don't forget to manage your contact details, add your banking information and fill out your tax forms in member settings, within the MLC portal, so you can get paid. When music is used on digital music services, more than one type of royalty is generated and paid to creators. Are you collecting all of the royalties you should be? Understanding the types of royalties generated and how to collect them can be difficult because it is complex. At the MLC, we've mapped it out for you. Join us for a breakdown of the digital music landscape, where we'll explain the different rights involved and royalties due to creators of both musical works and sound recordings. Ways to distribution: sheet music, interactive audio, stream and on-demand stream, YOUA range, charge what you are listening to, e.g. Spotify. Non-interactive stream, more passive. You pick the station, channel or playlist, but you do not pick the recording, e.g. like satellite radio. It's estimated that nearly $1 billion in royalties annually don't make it to their rightful owners. This is an excerpt from my book How to Make It in the New Music Business. To not get into too much history, and really just cut to the chase, before the digital age, royalties were difficult to track, but there were fewer platforms to consume music, so there were far fewer royalty streams to worry about. With physical sales plummeting, people shifting from downloading to streaming, and the rise of digital radio, there are many more royalties out there, but they can be tracked much more easily. We're not quite there yet, but we're getting closer every day. Plus learn how this works in ADA's registration, royalties, and release plus streaming growth course for indie artists without a label or a publisher. You have to know what these royalties are and know where and how to get them. DistroKid_Aristake_X. So let's break them down. First, some terms you need to understand. Artists record sound recordings. Rihanna is an artist. She did not write her song Diamonds. So she is not the songwriter. Record labels represent artists. A band is an artist. A rapper is an artist. A singer is an artist. Typically whatever name is on the album is the artist. Songwriters write the compositions. Diamonds was written by 4 songwriters: Sia Furler, Benjamin Levin, Michael S. Erickson, and Tor Erik Hermansen. Publishing companies represent songwriters. A songwriter collects songwriter royalties. Plus he wrote/produced #hit songs. Stargates Tor Hermansen on how to do it. Sound recording. Some call this the master. It's the actual recording. The mastered track. Traditionally, labels, because they own the master, collect music royalties for sound recordings. Sound recordings are not to be confused with compositions. Artists record sound recordings. Composition: this is the song, not the recording. Traditionally, publishing companies, because they own the composition and represent songwriters, collect music royalties for compositions. Songwriters write compositions. Performing rights organizations. In the United States, these are ASCAP, BMI, SESAC and Global Music Rights, GMR. In Canada this is SOCAN. In the UK it's PRS. Pretty much every country in the world has its own pro and they work together to collect royalties from each other's territories. These performance rights organizations represent songwriters, not artists. These are organizations that collect performance royalties, not mechanical royalties. We'll get to those in a bit. Pros make money to pay songwriter royalties and publishing royalties by collecting money from thousands of venues and outlets, radio stations, streaming services, TV stations, department stores, bars, live venues, etc., that have been required to purchase blanket licenses giving these outlets permission to play music in their establishment, or on the air. The pros then pool all of this money and divide it among all of their songwriters and publishers based on the frequency and weight of each song's public performance. The pros then pay the publishing companies their percent and the songwriters their percent. Pros split publishing and songwriter royalties equally. This is not a deal you negotiate. This is just how they do it for everyone from Taylor Swift down to you and me. Any songwriter in the US can sign up for ASCAP or BMI without being invited or having to apply. ASCAP and BMI are both not-for-profit organizations. SESAC and GMR are for-profit and you must be accepted. ASCAP, American Society of Composers, Authors, and Publishers, represents members, songwriters and publishers, and over 1 million compositions. ASCAP is owned and run by its songwriter and publisher members, with a board elected by, and from, its membership. They have paid out over $1 billion in. They represent songwriters like Katy Perry, Dr. Dre, Mark Anthony, Chris Stapleton, Neo, Trisha Yearwood, Brandi Carlile, Lauryn Hill, Jimi Hendrix, Bill Withers, Carly Simon, Quincy Jones, Marvin Gaye, Stevie Wonder, Duke Ellington, and Ari Herstand. DistroKid_Aristake_X. BMI Broadcast Music Incorporated represents over, members, songwriters and publishers, and over 1 million compositions. They represent songwriters like Taylor Swift, Lil Wayne, Mariah Carey, John Legend, Lady Gaga, Eminem, members of Maroon, Michael Jackson, Linkin Park, Sam Cooke, Willie Nelson, Loretta Lynn, Dolly Parton, Fats Domino, Rihanna, John Williams and Danny Elfman. SESAC is not an acronym. Really. It represents over, members, songwriters and publishers, and over, compositions. They represent songwriters like Bob Dylan, Neil Diamond, Rush, Zac Brown, Hilary Scott of Lady Antebellum, the Avett Brothers, Shirley Caesar, Paul Schaefer and one half of Thompson Square. GMR Global Music Rights, GMR, was founded in by industry legend Irving Azoff. Like SESAC, it's invite-only and for profit. GMR pretty much exclusively represents superstars like Bruno Mars, Bruce Springsteen, Drake, Don Henley, Glenn Frey and Joe Walsh, the Eagles, John Mayer, John Lennon, Smokey Robinson, John Bon Jovi, Prince, Slash, Leon Bridges, Ari Lavigne and Pharrell. They pride themselves on getting the most amount of money for their very few clients. They have licensed over songs with about writers and publishers on their roster. You, as a songwriter, can't sign up to multiple performance rights organizations. Only sign up for one pro. You have to make distinctions and put ASCAP vs BMI for example, and choose which works for you. Performance rights organizations in your country. Pick one and sign up. It's important to note that if you go for an ASCAP membership as a songwriter, you also need to register a vanity publishing company. That means, just make up a name, mine is Proud Honeybee Music, and register your publishing company with ASCAP. You must do this to get paid all of your music royalties. If you don't have your vanity publishing company registered as a corporation, like an LLC, or have a bank account under its name, make sure to tell ASCAP you are doing business as the vanity publishing company so they can write the checks appropriately. You can also sign up for direct deposit, which expedites this entire process. ASCAP pays out % of the total money to the songwriter and % to the publisher. If you don't register a publishing company, you will only get half of your money. If you are an unaffiliated songwriter with BMI, you don't need to register a vanity publishing company. BMI will pay you % of the money. However, if you sign up for an admin publishing company, like Songtrust, Centric, CD Baby Pro, or TuneCore Publishing, they will collect your publishing money from your pro, take their commission, %, and pay you out the rest. So, you don't need to register a vanity publishing company, if you're with ASCAP, or register it as an LLC or open a bank account. This is a far easier option. Plus songwriters. Registering with ASCAP or BMI is not enough for you to get paid. I recommend you make sure all of your songs are registered with your local pro and that you work with an admin publishing company. If you distribute through CD Baby, use CD Baby Pro. If you don't, use Songtrust, Centric or TuneCore Publishing. If you haven't registered with a pro yet, sign up for an admin publishing company first, they will then register your songs with a pro, save some time and steps. Digital distribution company, some people call them digital aggregators. These companies are how you get your music into Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon, YouTube Music, Deezer, Tidal and plus other digital stores and streaming services around the world. I reviewed them in this piece. Sell merch like a pro with Benzoigal's Merch Table Lite plan. Get started today. Plus Best Music Distribution Companies, a comprehensive guide. HFA Harry Fox Agency. Prior to, many digital service providers, DSPs, engaged Harry Fox Agency, HFA, to help them administer the mechanical licenses needed for the songs that were available on their streaming platforms. In the Mechanical Licensing Collective, the MLC, legally became the sole organization responsible for administering a new blanket license that covered those uses on interactive streaming and download services, i.e., now the MLC collects % of mechanical royalties, aka streaming royalties, from US streams. HFA remains a privately owned company involved in different types of music licensing activities, including the administration of physical product and permanent download licensing and royalty services. The MLC in early, the Mechanical Licensing Collective formed. This was set up by the U.S. government to collect mechanical royalties from streaming services in the U.S. The MLC is the only organization in the U.S. that collects mechanical royalties. The only way you can get these is if either you or your publisher is signed up with the MLC. You can register, and check on your songs, at themlc.com. Plus the MLC is sitting on $1 million. How songwriters can claim it. Admin publishing companies. Admin stands for administration. All publishing companies have an admin department. They also have a sync licensing department, an A&R department and many other departments. Admin publishing companies have started popping up over the past few years to help unrepped songwriters, like you and me, collect all their music royalties from around the world. Again, companies like Songtrust, Centric, CD Baby, TuneCore and Audium are some admin publishing companies who will do this. These companies will accept anyone and everyone. If you have a bit more clout, you should look into more exclusive companies like Cobalt, Pen, Riptide and Secret Road. These companies operate like normal publishers, but work on an admin, commission-only, basis. They do not retain ownership, like traditional publishing companies. Plus Songtrust versus Centric versus CD Baby Pro Publishing versus TuneCore Publishing. Sync licensing. Sync stands for synchronization. A sync license is needed to sync music to picture. TV shows, movies, commercials, video games, all need a sync license to legally put a song alongside their picture. Technically, so does YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram officially struck deals with all the major, and most of the indie, publishers to officially allow cover videos on their platforms. That's why for a while, Facebook was ripping down cover videos. Back in the day, believe it or not, YouTube did it too per the publisher's request. But now that the platforms are licensed, publishers, and songwriters, can earn from cover videos on the platforms. YouTube was the first, with their Content ID technology, to be able to track and monetize songs uploaded by users on their platform. For verified partners, they will even split cover song earnings with the publishers and the creators of the videos. Plus YouTube Content ID is a scam. If you want to start earning from your Facebook videos, sign up for Facebook for Creators. As of Facebook required creators to have at least, page likes, at least, 1 minute views in the past days, a page in good standing, and to be based in a country that is supported by Facebook monetization. Sync licensing company / agent. Sync licensing companies, sometimes referred to as sync agents, work to get your music placed in TV shows, movies, trailers, commercials and video games. Sync licensing companies, oftentimes referred to as sync agents, typically only represent artists who are also the sole songwriters. Sync agents are one-stop shops for music supervisors. They want to make it as easy as possible for the ad agency or TV show to use the song. Licensing companies can clear the songs immediately for the music supervisors. So if you co-write with anyone, first make sure they are not signed to a publishing company. If they are, it makes things very difficult and will almost certainly prevent a sync agent from working with you or repping that song. And make sure you get in writing, email is fine, that you have full rights to the song to license without getting permission from your co-writers. Word to the wise: never pay a sync agent money up front to go pitch you. If they believe in your music, they will pitch you and work solely on commission. Commissions are typically between % and % of the upfront fee. Some will take a commission of your backend pro royalties and some will not. If you want to learn how to get your music synced and get a full list of reputable sync agencies, join Ari's Take Academy's course Advanced Sync Strategies for Film, TV shows and video games. Also, there are music licensing companies and libraries, like Triple Scoop Music, Audio Socket and MusicBed, that specialize in issuing inexpensive sync licenses for wedding photographers, corporations, for in-house training videos, and indie filmmakers. This can help you bring in some extra dough. These kinds of companies are definitely worth looking into. They don't work to get you the dollar, Verizon commercial spot, they're soliciting wedding photographers to pay $1 to license your song in their personal use wedding video. But these can add up. There are a bunch of these music licensing companies and libraries out there. Just Google around a bit, try music for wedding video or license music for indie film or license music library, and these companies will populate. Most are quite selective about what songs they bring on, to keep their quality up. But they all take applications from unknowns. If the quality is there, and it fits their format, they're probably not going to take death metal or gangsta rap for a wedding video licensing business. Most are non-exclusive, meaning you can work with a bunch of them. Again, do not pay anything up front. If any company charges you up front for these services, it's a scam. Run away to this comment section and let us know who these scam artists are. Plus how to get songs on TV, film, and video games, and get paid for it. SoundExchange. A lot of people confuse SoundExchange with pros because technically SoundExchange is a performing rights organization. But I'm not including them in the pro classification out of clarity, and when most in the biz discuss pros, they are just referring to the aforementioned ASCAP, BMI, SESIC, SOCAN. SoundExchange represents artists and labels, whereas the other pros represent songwriters and publishers. Unlike the four pros in America, SoundExchange is the only organization in America that collects performance royalties for non-interactive digital sound recordings, not compositions. Non-interactive means you can't choose your song. So, SiriusXM radio is non-interactive, whereas Apple Music and Spotify are interactive. Beats, within Apple Music, is digital radio, non-interactive. Part of Pandora is still non-interactive as well. SoundExchange has agreements with 20 foreign collection agencies. When your music is played in their territory, they pay SoundExchange, and SoundExchange pays you. Like the pros, SoundExchange issues blanket licenses to digital radio, non-interactive platforms, like Pandora and SiriusXM, which gives these outlets the ability to play any song they represent. Like the pros, the outlets pay an annual fee for the blanket license. But, SoundExchange collects only digital royalties. The pros collect digital, terrestrial, AM and FM radio, and live royalties. The way the copyright law is currently written in the United States, AM/FM radio has to pay only composition performance royalties and not sound recording royalties. Makes no sense. The U.S. Copyright Office has recommended that this law be changed, but only Congress can do that, and the few times it has tried, the proposal was defeated, largely as the result of heavy lobbying by big radio. So, again, SoundExchange equals digital sound recording royalties for non-interactive plays in the US. And to complicate matters even more, not all digital radio services work with SoundExchange, but do. Some opt out. Spotify non-interactive radio has opted out, and they just negotiate rates directly with each label/distributor. How to sign up for SoundExchange or your country's neighboring rights organization. If you are a U.S. based artist, go to soundexchange.com. If you are both the performer, artist, and the owner of the sound recording, meaning you don't have a record label, simply select both on the second page of the registration when it asks you to select performer, sound recording copyright owner, or both. It's a long process and you have to submit a full catalog list. When I did this, I had to email in a complicated Excel doc with lots of info. Plan a weekend to do all of this. It's time consuming, but worth it. If you are not in the United States, you do not need to sign up for SoundExchange. Sign up for your country's neighboring rights organization. See below. Fun fact: I encouraged Ari's take reader and children's musician Andy Mason to sign up for SoundExchange, and the first check he got was $4. Apparently, Pandora had his songs included on all the most popular children's music radio stations and he had no idea. Boom. SoundExchange will hold your back royalties for 3 years, so register now if you haven't already. And if you have registered, maybe you did years ago, make sure you have also registered as the sound recording copyright owner. They previously called it rights owner. Because the both option is very new, you may have missed it and are only receiving % of your total money. Why % and not %? Session musicians can get some of this money too. If you are a session musician, % of the total money earned for each song has been reserved for you. Contact the AFM, the Musicians Union, to grab this moolah. SoundExchange's breakdown for payment % to featured artist, % to the sound recording owner, label or you if you self-released, and % to session musicians or, as they put it, non-featured artists. Whether you have session musicians or not on your record, SoundExchange withholds % of all royalties from everyone for them. If you live outside the United States, you do not need to sign up for SoundExchange. You should register with your country's neighboring rights organization. What is that? Keep reading. So, just to clarify, here is a breakdown for the music royalties artists and labels earn, and how to get them. Backup musicians and session players. If you played on a record as a session musician and that record was released by a label registered with AFM and SAG-AFTRA, you are entitled to various royalties, not just from SoundExchange. It's definitely worth checking the AFM and SAG-AFTRA fund website to see if you have outstanding royalties. Neighboring rights. In nearly every country outside the United States, there's what's called neighboring rights. Yeah, if this was an American thing, it would be spelled neighboring, but it's not. It's European and beyond. Neighboring rights are similar to what SoundExchange administers and collects, sound recording performance royalties for artists and labels. However, they also collect royalties from music played on terrestrial radio, television, in bars, jukeboxes, and everywhere else in the physical world. In the UK, the organization that does this is PPL. In Canada this is Resound. Just search neighboring rights, your country, to find how to collect your music royalties in your country. For clarity, if you live outside the US, you do not need to register with SoundExchange. Register with your country's neighboring rights organization to collect sound recording performance royalties. Nearly every neighboring rights organization works with SoundExchange to collect US royalties. Artist royalties. ARIs. Take artist royalties flowchart, watermarked, the best route for maximum music royalties, for you, ASCAP vs BMI. When we pit ASCAP vs BMI, they both hold similar numbers in terms of members and compositions. That also rings true in terms of performance royalties payouts and other features. For example, they both make quarterly payments to writers and both are affiliated with a good amount of other services and companies. But when it comes to memberships, ASCAP will set you back annually, whereas BMI will lock you in for 2 years without a fee. The ASCAP membership cost is probably the only reason anyone would turn away from this pro. In the business sense, ASCAP knows their way around the industry and their intuitive website is loved by their members. ASCAP or BMI for independent artists. Although a BMI membership is free, it's not the only reason they're chosen by independent artists. BMI vs ASCAP is too close of a match, and even though they're not the oldest in the game, they're definitely known a very respectable and good choice for a pro. Artist royalties. Sound recording digital performance royalties. In the United States, these are just from non-interactive digital streaming services, also known as digital radio. Outside the US, these are from radio, digital and terrestrial, TV, jukeboxes, bars, cafes, shops, nightclubs, gyms, universities, and anywhere there is a public performance of a recording called digital performance royalties. How to get paid. SoundExchange in the US, PPL in the UK, Resound in Canada, or your country's neighboring rights organization. Plus register for SoundExchange here. Download sales. These result from someone downloading your music on iTunes, Google Play, Amazon, etc. How to get paid. Your distribution company. Remember, if a fan downloads your music on Bandcamp, you get a check directly from Bandcamp because Bandcamp is a self-managed, as in you manage it yourself, store. Plus best music distribution companies, a comprehensive guide. Interactive streaming revenue. There are lots of different kinds of streaming revenue. But interactive, meaning you choose the song. Streaming revenue, like from Spotify, Apple Music, Deezer, Tidal, goes to the artist/label. When these services claim they pay out percent of all revenue, the percent is for both the artist/label revenue and the songwriter royalties, mechanical royalties and performance royalties. Streaming revenue to artists is way more than the mechanicals royalties paid to songwriters. How to get paid your distribution company plus how to get million Spotify streams without playlists. YouTube sound recording revenue. Technically there are a bunch of assets, streams of revenue, for each video. To make it simple, we'll just get into how you can earn money. First, for the sound recording, we'll get into the composition in the next section. You can make music royalties off of any video that uses your sound recording, whether you uploaded the video or not. If you allow YouTube and Facebook to put ads on the video, they call it moneas. Either videos you upload or fan-made cat videos with your sound recordings can generate ad revenue that you can collect if you are a verified partner. YouTube splits the ad revenue percent in your favor. Facebook and Instagram have not publicly discussed their rates. How to get paid. Most digital distribution companies have this option via an opt-in checkbox. If your distributor doesn't handle this, you can work directly with YouTube to become a verified partner or sign up for an independent revenue collection company like Audium and AdRev. But it's easiest if you keep everything under one roof. Master use license. Any TV show, movie, commercial, trailer or video game requires both a master use license, from the artist/label, for use of the sound recording and a sync license, from the songwriter/publisher, for use of the composition. These days, most music supervisors, the people who place the music, will just pay you, an indie artist, a bulk amount for both the master use license and the sync license, because most indie artists wrote and recorded the song. But if you're repped by a label and a publisher, the SUP, that's short for music supervisor, will go to your label and pay for a master use license and then to your publisher and pay for a sync license. Usually it's the same amount, but not always. How to get paid directly from the TV studio, ad agency, for a commercial, production company, for a movie or trailer, or game company. It's best to work with a sync license agent for this. TV commercial residuals. If your music, with vocals, gets on a SAG-AFTRA union commercial, you can also earn these royalties. And these definitely add up. I was in a Bud Light commercial, as an actor, and in SAG-AFTRA residuals, I got about $1 a month for the duration it was on the air. That was for hanging out at a fake barbecue holding a can of limerita and laughing on cue a lot. If one of your recordings with vocals gets into a union commercial, you might make something like that. Many commercials run about 6 months, that could be $1, just in SAG-AFTRA residuals. When getting a song synced on a commercial, make sure you always ask if it is a SAG-AFTRA commercial so you can call up SAG-AFTRA and get these music royalties. How to get paid. SAG-AFTRA. If, however, SAG-AFTRA doesn't have your mailing address, they won't know who to pay. Contact SAG-AFTRA directly and give them your info when you have a recording played on a TV commercial. Worth mentioning, you do not need to be a SAG-AFTRA member to get paid. Songwriter royalties. Songwriter royalties. Composition performance royalties. Performance royalties come from plays on the radio, AM/FM or digital, interactive and non-interactive streaming services, Spotify, Apple Music, Deezer, Pandora, YouTube Music, Amazon, live at a concert, yes, even your own, in restaurants, bars, department stores, coffee shops, TV. Literally any public place that has music, live or recorded, needs a license from a pro to be able to legally play music in their establishment. For some reason, American movie theaters are exempt from needing a public performance license for the music used in films, and no one gets paid residuals when songs are played in the films. Music played in movie theater lobbies and bathrooms is different and can be licensed, and earned on. When a movie is played on TV, the songs in that movie earn royalties. When that same movie is played in a movie theater, those songs do not earn royalties. Makes no sense. It's just the way it is. However, performance royalties are generated for movie theaters outside the US. And for an international smash, it could add up to be some serious cheddar. I've heard of amounts in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. Not yen. Dollars, baby. Of course, if a coffee shop has the AM/FM radio playing, and if you're with ASCAP Music, you, most likely, won't get paid when your song is played there, because ASCAP most likely won't be conducting a survey of that radio station at that exact moment. But if the shop has Pandora or Sirius XM on, or other piped-in music services, this is tracked and you will, eventually, get paid on the plays. The system is currently being worked out and not everything is tracked yet, but eventually, say, in a few years, it will be. ASCAP uses a sampling method, where they employ an electronic monitoring system, media monitors/Mediabase, for sample performance data from commercial, public, satellite and college radio. The sample data is then loaded into ASCAP's audio performance management system where it is, mostly, electronically matched to the works in the ASCAP music database. ASCAP states that they supplement this data with station logs and other technology vendors and methods that capture ads, promos, and themes, and background music. BMI also uses sampling. They say they use performance monitoring data, continuously collected on a large percentage of all licensed commercial radio stations, to determine payable performances. They also use their proprietary pattern recognition technology. They call it a census and claim it's statistically reliable and highly accurate. My song was played as bridge music on NPR's All Things Considered, 4 million people. I won't be getting paid for this, unless ASCAP happened to be running a sample of NPR at that exact moment. Tip: most pros, like ASCAP, BMI, SOCAN, PRS, etc., have a program where you can import your setlist and venue information to secure payment of your live performance royalties, for performing your originals in a club, theater, grocery store, arena, wherever. This can actually be a pretty good chunk of change. In the UK, for instance, PRS calculates this as pound per show for non-ticketed gigs, like cafes and pubs, or at least % of box office sales for ticketed venues, any size from clubs to arenas. The % is then divided among all of the songs performed at that venue that year, split between headliners, %, and openers, %. I recently heard that an opener of a big arena tour in Europe playing just 4 songs a night was making about $, per night in performance royalties. So it's super important that you register your set lists with your pro. Some admin publishing companies, like Centric, will register your set lists with the pros in the regions you tour, but you must ask about this. Many pros, however, require the artist to input their set lists directly. ASCAP also runs a separate survey of the top grossing tours of each year, according to Pollstar. This includes both headliners and openers set lists. How to get paid your Pro Plus from $1 to $K a month. Live streaming mechanical royalties. Mechanical royalties are earned when a song is streamed, downloaded or purchased, like a CD or vinyl. In America, the rate is set by the US government. In the US, streaming mechanicals from every DSP are paid directly to the MLC. What's the MLC? It's the Mechanical Licensing Collective created in early. And the rate increased, for the first time in many, many years. Worth noting, in the United States, Canada, and Mexico, mechanical royalties get passed on to the label/distributor from iTunes. However, nearly everywhere else in the world, mechanicals get collected by local collections agencies before the money gets to your distributor. That's why when you look at your statements, an iTunes download in the US nets you % of $. Apple retains % from iTunes sales, whereas a download in England nets you around $. So if you don't have an admin publishing company, you won't get any of your international mechanical royalties from download sales, but who downloads music anymore? Most international collection agencies will hold on to this money for about 3 years, until a publisher comes and claims it. You technically could try to do this by calling up collection agencies in every country, but I just recommend going with an admin pub company. They already have all the relationships built, and they only take about %. It's worth it. How to get paid: admin publishing company, the MLC, in the US, or your country's mechanical rights organization. Plus Song Trust vs Centric vs CD Baby Publishing vs TuneCore Publishing. Sync license: like the master use license, any TV show, movie, commercial, or video game requires a synchronization, sync license for short, license to put the composition alongside their picture. How to get paid: directly from the TV studio, ad agency, for a commercial, production company, for a movie or trailer, or game company. It's best to work with a sync licensing company for this. Plus how to get songs on TV, film, and video games, and get paid for it. How to release cover songs, legally. If you want to release a cover song, remember, song, not video, you have to get a mechanical license. The US law states that once the song has been publicly released, anyone can cover it, without permission from the copyright owner, as long as they get a compulsory mechanical license for the song. Sounds scary and complicated, but it's actually quite simple. Your digital distribution company may handle this for you. But if they don't, you have to get a license via HFA's Songfile or Easy Song Licensing. Plus how to legally release cover songs, with images. You made it. See? I told you you could do it. You're now a music royalties master. Now go educate all of your musician friends. Okay, yeah, that was a hell of a lot of information. Bookmark this page so you can reference it. And make sure to sign up for my email list below to get more tips like this to your inbox. Frequently asked questions: what is ASCAP? ASCAP is a community of songwriters, composers, and music publishers. A performance rights organization that's run by its members. They provide music licenses to businesses to allow them to use the music publicly, and provides music royalties to its members from that revenue. Which song has made the most in royalties? You may have guessed it, it's the Happy Birthday song by the Hill Sisters. The rights to the song was bought by Warner Chappell for $1 million, and to this day brings in an annual $1 million in music royalties. What are royalties in music? Songwriters, artists, composers, and representatives receive music royalties from other companies or establishments that want to play their music publicly. It's a form of compensation for a license that allows public use of the media and ensures everyone receives what should be a fair share of the income. What is PRS? PRS stands for the Performing Rights Society. If you're asking what is PRS, then there's a lot you need to know about music royalties to ensure you always get your fair share. When your work gets broadcasted on TV, in public, on the radio, or elsewhere, the Performing Rights Society, PRS, and the Mechanical Copyright Protection Society, MCPs, pay royalties to their members. What does CESIC stand for? If you find yourself invited to join CESIC, you may be wondering, what does CESIC stand for anyway? Well, first of all, let me congratulate you on your invitation. Second, CESIC is an acronym for the Society of European Stage Authors and Composers. CESIC collects music royalties from different avenues and is considered a leader in the space. SoundExchange vs BMI, which one should I choose? SoundExchange and BMI are both pros that collect performance royalties for public performances. You need both to maximize your songwriter royalties. SoundExchange vs BMI is the same as digital vs live/public. For Pandora, SiriusXM, and other non-interactive mediums, SoundExchange is needed to collect songwriter royalties from them. Whereas BMI will collect royalties for public performances such as radio or restaurants. Why choose BMI Publishing? To be clear, BMI is not a publisher. BMI is a performing rights organization, PRO. You can register your vanity publishing company with BMI so you have a publisher, so to speak. You can register for BMI for free, whereas ASCAP charges a fee of $. I spoke about the similarities and differences for ASCAP, BMI, and SESIC earlier in this article. How to become a paid songwriter and earn song royalties. When you start looking into how to become a paid songwriter, you'll quickly realize that earning song royalties isn't a get-rich-quick scheme, or an easy route to fame. Hard work is synonymous with songwriter, and it will take tons of work, practice, working with others, and persistence. Oh, and make sure all of your sounds are copyrighted and registered properly so you can start collecting your royalty checks. That's why you're here. Sign up to my email list and I'll send you the things to do before you release your song or album. How do songwriter royalties work? There are 3 ways to earn songwriter royalties: performance royalties, mechanical royalties, sync fees, and publishing royalties. Mechanical royalties refer to digital downloads at cents split between co-writers and publishers. Performance royalties are for live/public/broadcasted performances paid out through performing rights organizations, pros. A sync fee is received by a songwriter and/or publisher when a TV show, ad agency, production house, or company purchases a sync license to use a piece of work to synchronize with video. Becoming a member of the MLC is the first step toward collecting your streaming royalties. But what's next? As a member, you'll want to learn how to register your songs and use our claiming and matching tools. Tune into this webinar for an overview about how these next steps will help you get paid all the royalties you deserve. Download Mechanical's sheet music seams outside the below are through the MLC below public performances CDs and vinyl records interactive streams downloads remixes are derivative rights. Record companies pay for the Mechanical's record label gets the monies and record label pays the Mechanical royalties to the music publisher. Ari Herstand breaks down how to collect all of your music royalties in this live webinar. He is joined by the MLC's Lindsay Major to highlight their new search portal. He discusses the difference between performance and mechanical royalties, master sound recording versus publishing royalties, where admin publishing companies come into play, and how your distributor can help. This is from a live webinar Ari gave in September. Search in video. Let's get started here. Frederick has the book. Thank you, Frederick. I'm glad you dig it. Okay, so really important time to put your thingy caps on. I hope you have your notebooks handy, so whip out that pen and feel free to screenshot whatever you want. We are also going to send you a link to the replay after this, so you will have access to a replay. I'm going to be moving quickly, so you're welcome to watch this as many times through as you need, and I'm also going to be sending you some of these assets, these slides, and a link to kind of an article that I wrote all about this stuff as a refresher, so you can just reference the article. But I'm gonna go through this now, and I see the few people that are already in the queue to be called up to go through your reports later, so we will be getting to you in just a few minutes. Okay, let's get going. Copyrights on a recording. This is really important. This slide might look very simplistic or simple, but this is the most important visual aid that is going to be in your music career. I'm serious, that is not a hyperbole. I want you to think about these colors, these blue and this pink. I want you to be thinking about these whenever you think of royalties and be like, wait, what was that? That was that slide that Ari showed me. What was this visual thing? Oh, artist blue, songwriter pink, artist blue, song. What does this mean? This is so important. Okay, so there are 2 copyrights on a recording. There is the sound recording copyright. Some people call this the master. That's just a basic recording. Artists record sound recordings. There's also another copyright on a recording that's called, sometimes you call that the composition or the song. The legal term is the composition when you're registering the copyright. Some people call this the song. Songwriters write songs, they own those composition copyrights. Artists record recordings and release sound recordings. So why is this distinction important? Okay, well, and as most of you probably, we're everything. We write our own music, we're our songwriters, and we're artists. We release the songs that we write. Cool, but what happens if you record a cover song? So I see a Brianna Falcone is here. What if I record a Brianna song and I release it? I don't automatically now own her a composition copyright. I don't own her song just because I decided to record it and release it. She still owns the composition copyright. She Still wrote the song. Just because I recorded it and released a cover doesn't mean that I own it. When Jimi Hendrix or Dave Matthews, who I just saw last weekend, phenomenal show, records All Along the Watchtower and releases that recording of All Along the Watchtower, that's still Bob Dylan's song All Along the Watchtower. Bob Dylan will still own that songwriter copyright just because so, but Bob Dylan does not own Jimi Hendrix recording or Dave Matthews recording, and Brianna wouldn't own my recording of her song. She owns the composition copyright. I own the master if you record it. So if you're an artist and you record a cover song, let's say you cover one of my songs, I'm a songwriter too, so you're the artist and you record one of my songs. Now when you release that recording, you own that recording. That is your recording because you recorded it and you release it, and as long as you created all the components to that recording, you didn't use samples. That's another topic we're gonna do a little bit later. As long as you made all the aspects of that recording and you release it, you own that recording. But if it's my song, if I wrote the song, you just covered it, I own the song, I still own the song. Okay, I'm hitting this really hard and I'm explaining it in a bunch of different ways because this is super important, because you won't understand anything else in this presentation if you don't understand this concept. Okay, okay. Wills get it. Did Dylan recently sell all of his songwriter copyright? Okay, yeah, that's a totally that's a different topic. Yes, you can of course sell, and that brings us to our next point. You can ask organizations or companies or give up or allow them to own or control your composition, your copyright. So remember that blue circle, pink circle. So record labels typically work with artists and they sign artists and they own or represent the recordings. So when you release that recording, if you work with a record label, they're typically going to own that, or they're going to have the rights to it, they'll license it, that kind of a thing. But traditional record labels, traditional major record deals and indie deals, they typically will own that master recording. So when you say, oh, they're owning my masters, that's what they're talking about, not your song's masters. Remember the difference, master song. So publishing. So when people say now, so that's the master side. When a record label owns or represents, they sign the artist, they release the recordings, that's the blue circle. Record labels, artist, blue circle, master recordings. Now let's hop on over the composition side. Totally different. This is what people refer to as publishing, songwriter. They can kinda be used interchangeably. So when someone's like, oh, who's getting publishing on this, how much? How we splitting up the publishing, songwriter. You can literally interchange the word songwriter and publishing. People just like to feel I think more important when they say publishing instead of songwriter. I don't know, you can use whatever term you want. It's publishing, it's songwriter, it's the same thing. So songwriters are represented by publishing companies typically. So publishing companies sign songwriters. It's if publishing companies aren't signing artists who don't write their own songs, they sign songwriters. Now sometimes those songwriters release records too, of course, and they're artists as well, just like you and I. I'm assuming most people here, just like me, are both songwriters and artists, but you're going to get signed potentially. If you get signed, you'll get signed as an artist to a record label, because sometimes people I have an artist project called Brassroots District. It's a band, so the band Brassroots District is going to get signed to a record deal, a record label, maybe, probably. Actually not, we're not going to, because we don't want to, but if we wanted to sign with a record label, the band would get signed to a record label. Brass District would not get signed to a publishing company. Bands don't get signed to publishing companies, songwriters get signed to publishing companies. Songwriters own songs, songwriters write songs and they register those copyrights, and if they work with a publishing company, sometimes the publishing company will also own part of that song, or they're going to represent it. That whole thing, does that make sense? So Wayne just asked, what if the label didn't pay for the recording, why do they still own the master? Okay, thank you, Mike. Exactly, it absolutely depends on the contract. So it's just because you signed with a record label doesn't mean that they automatically own your firstborn. Sometimes they do put that firstborn child in there that we're gonna own, as well as all your masters, but sometimes not. So in the record deal it will say we own all of your master recordings in perpetuity, which means forever. Sometimes the record deal will say we're only going to license your recordings for years, so we don't own anything, we're just gonna represent them. That's why I wrote up here ownership and representation. Sometimes they own, sometimes they just represent, but sometimes you don't. Work with a record label or publishing company. You might be like me, I'm an independent artist, everything I release is independent, I don't have a record label, so I'm self-released, and that's different, but I'm still the blue circle whether I work with a record label or not, it really doesn't matter. This is ownership and representation, so I own my masters, I represent my masters. Some people who work with record labels, the label owns their masters or represents their masters. Some songwriters who work with a publishing company, the publishing company might own or represent their songs, their compositions, whatever you want to call them. Okay, makes sense, cool, let's go. And Wayne, it really doesn't matter who paid for what, honestly it all comes down into the agreement. So if you release the recording, so it's all in the agreements. So there are typical recordings out there. I know Waylon just asked during the licensing period with the so-called record labels still receive a huge chunk of revenue or only percentage outline of the contract with the master recordings, and we're going to get into this in just a second. With the master sound recordings, there are no laws that say the label gets this amount of money or something like that. Now there are laws and that's from the stream revenue. Now we're going to get into where the laws do come into place. The laws for the master side are in the master performance royalties, which we're going to get into in a second, and we'll talk about that. But when it comes to your deal with the record label, they could take of all the revenue that comes in, they could take, it's really whatever's in your contract. Now let's keep going, and then we'll take more questions at the end, because I don't want to go down too many rabbit holes, because I think you're gonna get it if we just keep going. Okay, here's an artist royalty flow chart. Now remember, we're only talking blue circle right now, blue artist sound recording master. I'm going to have a separate slide for the songwriter royalty flow chart, so this is just that blue circle artist royalty flow chart. And don't worry, I'm going to send this to everybody, so check your email after this webinar, you'll get this in your email. Okay, so an artist, you make a recording, whether it's your song, somebody else's song, it doesn't matter, you make the recording. We're not talking about who wrote the song right now, all we're talking about is the recording that you released. You make that recording, so you distribute that recording to the streaming services, to the DSPs if you will. DSP, I know that term gets thrown around a lot. You're like, what does DSP mean? Digital service provider. If you had anyone here, you say like, oh yeah, it's going to the DSPs. DSP just stands for, it's means streaming service, so it's another term for Spotify, Apple Music, all that stuff, so they're all called DSPs. Anyway, moving on, you distribute your song, doesn't matter which distributor you use, whether you work with District Kid, TuneCore, Seed Baby, Symphonic, Song Trader, or record label, doesn't matter, somebody you work with gets your music onto Spotify and Apple Music and the rest, Deezer, Tidal, all that stuff. So now once you start to get streams, what happens? Well, let's follow the dollars. Can you guys see the dollar signs there? So it comes from the streaming services, and that money gets paid to your distribution company. So if you used DistroKid and you distributed your recording through DistroKid to all the DSPs, based on how much money they generated from the streams or the downloads, they will send that money back to DistroKid and say, alright DistroKid, here's all the money that your artist recording generated, or TuneCore or CDR or whoever it is you're using, or the record label. Same thing if you're represented by Capitol Records. Capitol is going to get the check, it's still going to go to the distributor, and then it's going to go the label, but then that distributor, because I'm assuming everybody here is independent, but if you do, let's see here, so then they pay the distribution company, and the distribution company pays you. That's where you go log into the back and you get the stream royalties. Now let's look at some of these other things. So you know how I said there's no law for that? Okay, there's no law for that center section, but there is a law, and that is for the section over here, digital radio. That's in, we're talking just the us, remember, for the side, for the section here, and that's when it comes to Sound Exchange. So Sound Exchange, I don't know if you guys can see this, I want you right here, digital radio, see this? Okay, this is where we are right now. Okay, so when Sirius plays your recording on the radio, or Pandora plays it on the Pandora radio, or iHeartRadio plays it on anything that's digital radio, we're not talking on the dial. This doesn't count for the dial if you tune into, KCRW or whatever. We're not talking about that, we're talking about digital only radio, satellite radio, all that stuff. They do have to pay master performance royalties, and these are the sound recording, we're talking sound recording royalties, and that is, they're also called performance royalties, but not to be confused with songwriter side. Remember, we're talking artist. I don't want you to forget what are we talking about, artist royalties. So Sound Exchange, that also and we're gonna get into sound exchange in just a second more, but just so you understand, those come from digital radio. Now in the rest of the world, the royalties are called neighboring rights, and there's Navy rights organizations. So if you live in Europe like UK, that's PPL. If you're in Canada, that's resound, and that's for performance, master performance royalties when your recordings are played on the radio, in bars, TV, that kind of stuff. Now notice how I'm using the term recordings and not songs, and I'm saying artists and not songwriters. I'm being very intentional with my word choice right now. Why? Because artists are over here, songwriters over here, recordings are over here, songs are over here. They're very different. So whereas sometimes you might use them interchangeably, you might say like, oh, you know artists, or you know this artist just wrote that song. It's like, okay, as we're talking in conversation, yeah, you might say, yeah, this artist wrote that song or whatever, but today I'm not gonna say that. And when you're really talking the legal stuff, you don't say this artist wrote that song, you say this artist recorded that recording and the songwriter wrote that song, because in contract terms, in how we speak about these things, we differentiate between the artist and the songwriter, the completely separate entities, and that's just like to understand. So again, we're in the artist royalties flow chart, that blue circle here we are. So if you're some of you are familiar with sync licensing, if your song gets placed on a TV show or a movie or something like that, I'm sorry, my mistake. If your recording gets placed on, we're going to get the songs in just a second. If your recording gets placed on a TV show or a commercial, something like that, they need to get a sync license, and this is called the master use license. And so they need to get this master use license, and either if you're working with a sync licensing company, a sync agent, or a record label, or just you. I mean, when on my recording first got on a One Tree Hill, I did not have a record label or a sync licensing agent or anything like that. The music supervisor for One Tree Hill, Lindsay Wolfington, came to me directly. I was like, hey, can we put your recording, can we put this song recording, because I own both. I wrote the song and I recorded it, so I was able to clear both the sides. And when you say both sides, it means the sound recording side and the composition side, because I wrote both. And I said yes, so that's sync, that's the master use. They need to get a license for that, and they'll pay you for that. And then you know, you might get some residuals if you're singing on the recording and it gets used in a union commercial, but that's a whole other topic and it's very confusing. So we're going to move forward, because the Jessica, maybe I missed this, but what is the neighboring rights organization called in the U.S. right? So it's technically, we don't call them a neighboring rights organization, but it's essentially sound exchange. These neighboring rights are internationally what they're called, but the term here, it's kind of like they're essentially doing the same thing. They're collecting your master, those sound recording performance royalties, sound recording performance royalties. Okay, yes, Jeff, the digital radio, I'm radio's catch-all for the rest of the world, so it's radio, digital, terrestrial, any kind of radio, rest of world. But I differentiated it because in the U.S. there's a weird law on the books that says it's only going to collect from digital radio. That's what Sound Exchange does, only collect from digital radio in the US. So that's just a weird, frankly dumb thing that the US does, is they Sound Exchange only collects radio. Why not regular radio? I don't know, it's stupid, but that's just how it is. So that's why I have to. Alex, do you think they'll ever change? I hope so. Yeah, I mean that we keep trying to change this. It's like literally the Copyright Office every few years makes a recommendation. They're like, maybe radio, like terrestrial radio, like on the dial, should pay these master royalties like the rest of the world. And then the music industry's like, yes please, why aren't you paying us? And then big radio comes in clear channels like, oh no you don't, if you want our money you're not gonna. Politicians, hey, politicians, don't vote for this, because a big radio, we don't want to have to pay these royalties. So that's the political fight anyway. So I don't know, Amy, which organization collects dial radios for us? And then so okay, do you see? Let me show you right here. Good question, great questions, people. See this guy right here, if you're signed up with Sound Exchange, you'll get your international royalties from these other organizations. Sound Exchange has relationships with all the international neighboring arts organizations. So if you're in the US and you sign up with Sound Exchange, they will collect from all these other ones. Tadia, so who in the US, what company collects from regular radio plays? No company. You don't earn any royalties. That's that dumb law that's on the books. Exactly, it's stupid. Shouldn't we get our royalties? Yes we should, but we don't. Okay, moving on. So terrestrial radio just doesn't pay in the U.S. Jessica, terrestrial does not pay royalties to Artists and record labels, those master royalties. If your recording gets played on the radio, let's say it gets every radio station in the United States is playing your recording. If you did not write that song, you will receive 0 royalties on that. However, if they stream it or it gets played, if it's not, obviously you'll get the money from Spotify or Pandora or any of that stuff. But if your recording is played on terrestrial radio, no, you're not gonna get those royalties in the United States. That's a dumb law. Let's work on changing it. Okay Diane, thank you for transitioning me into the next slide. Oh, actually in just a couple seconds, so I'm gonna get to BMI in just a second. We're still, just so you know Diane and everybody else, we are still in this blue circle artist. These are just master royalties. We're going to get to BMI in a second. That's on the pink circle, but we're on blue circle right now. Blue circle. Master recordings. The organizations you need to register to collect your sound recording royalties are your distributors. So District, TuneCore, CD Baby, Songchair, Symphonic, Muse, whatever distributor you use. I actually compared or of the independent distributors out there. I will pop the will pop the link in the chat, Alexis, or to me you can pop that link in the chat and you can choose a distributor to distribute your music. Okay, the other organization is Sound Exchange. Again, this is to collect your digital radio royalties. Now let's talk about SoundExchange for a second. This soundexchange.com. If you are your own, if you don't have a record label, you go to soundchange.com and you select both. You say I'm both the performer and the sound recording copyright owner, because you own your recording. You don't have a record label that owns your recording, and so you ask them to pay you all the money, because how it works is SoundExchange splits up the money. They pay about half to the label and half to the artist. They actually pay a little bit to backup musicians, but that's another topic for another call. So yes, session musicians also get paid from SoundExchange. They're called non-featured artists, the non-performers. So if you're a session musician, if you played guitar or drums on somebody else's track, you're technically entitled to 5% of every recording from from digital radio, and you can get that money by going to the fund. So it is, I actually wrote an article on this. It was calling out the fund because they were not actually paying out all their money. That's a whole other topic. But if you're a backup musician, you don't get this money from SoundExchange, you get it from the fund. And Alexis, if you want to pop that link in there too. Jenna, do they pay retroactively? Yes, all these organizations hold on to your money for at least 3 years or so, and then so you want to get on this soon, because they'll, if you don't grab your money soon enough, they will just pay it out by market share to everybody else. Okay, moving on, we're on the pink circle now, the songwriter royalties flowchart. Now no confusion here, this chart is only U.S, so this is just the U.S how songwriter royalties work. Composition royalties in the United States, because it works slightly different everywhere else. And I don't have time today to cover every country, but we're just going to cover the United States songwriter royalties, how this works. If you're in the States, so you write a composition, you're a songwriter. Again, we're going back to, it's gonna take me a second to get back here, but just so you know, we're talking pink circle now. Pink circle, composition, songwriters, publishers, pink circle. Okay, so back to songwriter royalty flowchart. You write a song and it gets on a streaming service. So whether somebody covers your song and releases it, their recording, or you record your own song and release it, it gets to that streaming service. Now there are, if it's being streamed on Spotify, there are two streams of royalties for songwriters. Publishing royalties, whatever you want to call them. Remember, publishing, songwriter, same term. Publishing, songwriter, publishing, same kind of thing. So songwriter royalties, publishing royalties, whatever you want to call it. There are two kinds of publishing royalties: songwriter royalties that come from stream services. Can anybody tell me what those are? Look at this flow chart. It's alright, I'll give you a hint. There in the light gray here, you can see light gray. Yes, anyone? Come on, Bueller, you're in there somewhere. Two kinds of publishing royalties that come from streams. Who's gonna get this? I'm gonna give you a cookie. Come on, you're going to get a yes. Haiti Mechanical is one, and Performance. Hey, do you win the cookie? Somebody give Haiti a digital cookie. Thank you. Haiti Mechanical and Performance. Fantastic. These are the two kinds of publishing royalties. Oh, y'all get it? Okay, cool, thank you. Now how do you get these performance and mechanical royalties? How do you get them? Good question. Well, look at this chart here, so I'm going to highlight this. So performance royalties are over here. Now these come from when your song streams, but also when your songs get played. You know these are performance roughly, so it's get performed in public on radio, TV, bar, clubs. Even if you play your song live, or if somebody plays your song live, you can get performance royalties from that, and these are ASCAP BMI exchang global music rights in the United States. Now most countries around the world have their own performance rights organization. We have 4 in the States for songwriters, 4 of the big ones, and then there's some other carve out things, but not gonna get into that so you know most people, I'm assuming. And now I'm curious, I'm gonna run a quick poll of the performing arts organizations. Tell me which one you're registered with ASCAP BMI. Here we go. I'm gonna pop a poll here. You don't have to type it, you can just select the poll. Which pro are you registered with ASCAP BMI exchang? Okay, we have some people from Canada here, so can or if you're not registered, that's cool too. So you're either in. If you're in the States, are you registered with ASCAP? You're registered with BMI Aristotle or none or other. If you're in a different country and I didn't list your pro here. Okay, so we have a couple from Canada. Yeah, that's kind of what I would expect. It's split pretty. More people are selecting this poll here. Alright, who's gonna win? Oh man, alright, I'm gonna end it. Oh, look at that, exactly split percent ASCAP BMI, and then the rest are, we have 2% exchang. We've got a couple few people from SoCan from Canada here of SoCan and then there's 7%. There's some of you who are not registered with a pro. We're gonna get to that. You need to be. So now another poll I have for you, because so that's performance royalties. Those are those two kind. Now let's talk the other kind, mechanical royalties. Now in the United States, here's where you got to pay attention, because this changed this year. What year did this change? This year this changed. The only, listen closely, the only organization in the United States that is collecting mechanical royalties, and mechanical royalties where they come from. Hello dollars, royalties from streaming services from the DSPs. The only organization in America that collects mechanical royalties is called, drum roll please, the MLC. The MLC is, I'm going to hit this really hard because someone's going to ask me, well, what about Harry Fox, and what about, wait a minute, what about music reports? Nah, the MLC. Thank you, JJ. Yes, Frederick, MLC. Great, I'm glad that some of you know this. The only organization that collects mechanical royalties in the States is the MLC. Now this just changed the beginning of this year, January. The MLC formed. So previously there were other organizations. There was Harry Fox, there's music reports. It was it was complicated but now there's only one organization. This is set up by a Congress. This is from a law that was passed, the Music Modernization Act, that was passed in. They designated this organization, the MLC, to be the only organization to collect mechanical royalties. So I want to know, let me know, are you registered with the MLC? Take this poll you personally. Like, did you go to the MLC.com and did you register? Say like, yeah, I'm registered. If you don't know what it is, or you didn't do it, then your answer is probably no, or I don't know. So how many of you have actually gone to the MLC.com and registered your stuff? Not your songs are there, but you actually went and registered. Okay, that's kind of what I thought of. You are not registered. 4% of you, I don't know, 4%. You're signed with a publishing company and your publisher is, and of you are registered. Okay, so now I actually want to know, here's another question. Do you have a publishing company? Are you signed with the publishing company? Yes or major? Yes is an independent publisher. Independent does not mean CD Baby, TuneCore, Centric, or Song Trust. That's the one that down below, an admin publisher. That's different. So and then not this is where it's gonna get a little confusing. We're not talking vanity publishers either. So we're not talking the one that you wrote into ASCAP or BMI and you said, oh, this is what my publishing company is called. No, we're talking like there's a full-on admin publishing entity that's going around and collecting your royalties from every organization around the world. If you don't do that, then your vanity publishing company doesn't count here. So yeah, change that answer if that's so. It's an actual, like, we're talking independent publishing companies, like you're signed a Cobalt or something like that, or you're signed Concord or whatever. Alright, so that's what I thought. We got of self-administered songwriters have an admin publishing company, are signed with indie publishers, and then we have 1% signed to major publishers. That's what I thought. Okay, so let's so for those of you, you've got some work to do, because here we go. The organizations that you need to register to collect your publishing royalties. You have to be registered with a performing rights organization pro in the States. Ask that be mine, CSEC. So for all those people before that were not registered with ASCAP, BMI, or CSEC and you're a songwriter in the States, you have to register with them now. Even if you have a publishing company, you still have to register. with them because these pros they pay out of the money to your publishing company and of the money to you the songwriter directly. That's just how they work. Now the MLC is different. The MLC they don't do the split, they don't pay off to the songwriter to the publisher. The MLC they're paying out all of the mechanical royalties to whoever they can find that represents that of those mechanical royalties. So if you're a self-administered songwriter, so those 60% of you gotta go to the MLC.com and you have to sign up with the MLC and otherwise you're not gonna get your mechanical royalties. So the MLC.com, sign up for your mechanical royalties. Now I interviewed the head of the CEO of the MLC Chris on the podcast. I encourage you to listen to this episode. We'll also link that episode and article that I wrote on it in the chat. PT has a great question. So don't sign with the MLC if you have a pro. Incorrect. A pro does not stand for publishing company. Pro stands for performing rights organization. So if you are with ASCAP and you don't have a publishing company, you have to sign up with the MLC because remember, let's go back to the slide here. ASCAP exang, they represent performance royalties. But what are the two kinds of songwriter royalties? Ladies and gentlemen, what are the two kinds of publishing royalties? Performance, who collects performance royalties? Performing rights organizations. PRO, performing rights organizations. Who are they? ASCAP MICSEC. But what's the other kind of royalty? Publishing royalty, songwriter royalty, mechanic royalties. Who collects mechanical royalties? The MLC. Totally different. MLC collects mechanical royalties. Now why do I say here? This is where you're confused. Why do you say but if you don't have a publishing company? Okay, because if you have a publishing company, your publishing company has a relationship with the MLC and the MLC will pay out the publishing company and your publishing company will pay you. But the of you here that are not signed to a publisher and you don't have an admin publisher, you have to go to the MLC.com and sign up. So what I want to do now is I want to actually show you how you can check to see if you are getting paid from the MLC, and then I'm going to bring in Lindsay who she's from the MLC and she's going to help everybody explain this. Now if we have some volunteers here who want to come up and show their back end, so all my volunteers, this is where I want you to go. So get this page pulled up so we can start to do this together. But I'm going to show you what I'm doing here. So you're going to go to the MLC.com and I'm going to do this with you. Ready? The MLC.com. Now I want you to go to the public search right here, and now you can either type in a title of your song or you can search by writer name. Let's search now. It's important we're going to do this both ways, so we'll search by my writer name, my full name. There I have titles. This is how you're going to do this. So you're gonna pull this up and let's pull up a song that I co-wrote off my latest album. The song is called Drifting. As you can see, there's two writers here, me and I wrote it with Ruben. Now here's where we're running to an issue. So Proud Honeybee Music, that's my vanity publishing company. That's what I registered with ASCAP before I was working with an admin publisher. You know, ASCAP requires you to put an admin, a vanity publisher in there, just something so they'll pay. Remember how ASCAP pays? So this is me, this is just me, it's just I kind of came up with this word it's not a real company, it's just this is the name of one. Anyway, the administrator is Songdress, so I have a relationship with Sanchez. Songtraz is my administrator. So Ruben, though he doesn't have a publisher or administrator, so Ruben is not getting his mechanical royalties. So Ruben, if you're on, you got to go register with the MLC, otherwise you're not gonna get your mechanical royalties. If you're not here, I'll have to just text Ruben and be like, yo, MLC.com, do this. Now here's another issue that I found. Check this out. Work title. So I have a song called These Whoops These Feet Ain't Got Nobody. This is my Braziers District song. So here's the song, He's Feeding God Nobody. As you can see, two writers, Brett and me. However, as you can see, my name is not correct here. This is my artist. This is not Aris Thurston, which is my writer name. Now Brett is also administered by Song Trust, but the only one I can tell because it's his vanity publishing company and Song Trust. I'm not getting my mechanical royalties here, so I have to go take it up with Songdress now and be like, yo, Songdress, why aren't I getting? So for literally everybody here, whether you have a publisher, whether you have an admin publisher or you're self-administered, go here right now, go to the MLC.com and search your songs, because look at this, I have an administrator. You'd expect them to have this stuff done, but they don't, and I'm telling you, every publisher in the world, none of this is going to be perfect. So this is the way, this is how you're going to want to do this, and this is God Nobody. You can see the artist is here, yes. So anyway, okay, so I want to bring in some volunteers, and I'm going to bring Lindsay up, and she's going to step you through this and help everyone out. So Lindsay, do me a favor, raise your hand to speak too, so I can bring you up first and if that doesn't work I'll invite you as a presenter too like we did in the test, but here let me see if this works Lindsay and if not you can check the link from your email, but here we go, fingers crossed it works. Okay, just in case we'll see, right, and then I'm also going to bring up our volunteers too, but oh yes, Lindsay's here, it worked. Lindsay, how's it going? Good. How did I do so far? Did great. Okay, so let's bring up some of the volunteers and you can kind of help them go through their stuff. So Brianna, you've been waiting so patiently since the very beginning. Let's oh, and I do want people to know I should have mentioned that to Brianne before I accepted her. So Kevin, Amy, Wake, Jessica, you're going to have to approve something. You're going to have to go through some tests here and say yes I want to, test your audio, test your video, and that's the only way that you're going to get in here. So it's not Zoom, it's a little bit different and more complicated. So Kevin, Amy, Wake, Jessica, I don't know if Brianna got that, maybe she'll come back in, we'll get to her later, but Kevin, I'm gonna bring you up, so get ready to approve your stuff, and then we can go through Kevin's stuff, and if anyone else here wants to come up you can check the raise your hand to speak button there. Jesus Rodriguez song Trust is slowly losing my trust for sure. Yeah, you know what, hold their feet to the fire. I do it all the time. As soon as I noticed this I went to the song first. I'm like, yo, why aren't you collecting my why did song slip through the cracks? And they're like, oh, let's get on this, because here's the thing though, it's not just a song trust thing, it's honestly every publisher, every admin publisher out there, none of these reports are so complicated and so challenging. Nothing is going to be perfect out there, so let's see whatever. So Kevin, how's it going? Can you hear us? I can hear you very well. Can you hear me? Fantastic. Yes. So Kevin, do you want to go through your the songs register in the MLC and see if you're getting your money? Yes. So I actually, while you were talking, I went over to that and checked it, and the only song that's showing up is one that got chosen from a music library. For some reason I have songs to my pro and the only one showing up is one chosen. So Lindsay, what does he do? Yeah, Kevin, it sounds like so you're fully, it sounds, you said you registered your works to your pro, is that what I heard you say? Correct. Okay, so the pro data won't transfer over to the MLC automatically, so it sounds like you need to sign up to become a member and then you can register your works that way, and we've got a few options for you. You can choose to do it individually if that's your jam, you'd rather go through and do it one by one, we can do that, or we have a bulk work template. You download the template, you can do all. I think you said you do all at the same time, so it just kind of depends on what you prefer to do. But step 1 is becoming a member. Step 1, become a purpose. I can do that, thank you. And how do you become a member, Lindsay? Let us know again. Yeah, go to the mlc.com, click connect to collect. You will have to sign up to become a user first, so put in all your personal information, and then once you have a user account, then you'll hit you'll sign up to become a member. It's right in the front, so you can't miss it. Awesome, cool. And Kevin, I'm actually, so when you're looking at that, if you want you can share your screen real quick and so we can see what you're looking at, because I'm curious, even though the song is registered like mine was, I wonder if you're actually getting paid from it, because if you don't have an administrator or a publisher and you're not signing up for the MLC, I'm curious to see what it looks like. Yeah, I'd love to. Let me see, I'm not the most technologically, you know what, just tell me your songwriter name and I'll pull it up for you. Kevin Siri, S is in Sam, E-R-E-Y, Kevin S-E. Alright, let's pull this up here, and then probably Kevin Thomas series, what it said. Gotcha. Okay, S-E-R-E-Y, oh, here we go. Okay, found it. Alright, I see these here. I'm gonna share my screen so you guys can see what we're looking at here. Here we go. Okay, is this what you're seeing there? Correct. Yeah, alright, so Mechanical Copyright Protection Society. So Lindsay, do you know anything about this? Can you so yeah, it looks like do you have a relationship with Mechanical Copyright Protection Society? Kevin, no, I'm not exactly sure. Do you recognize or the other one, Pop-Up Music Publishing? Correct, that's the library that chose my song for sync. Okay, so it sounds like Kevin, you may need to, for this particular work, you may need to contact our support team and perhaps start a process to retain the control of this work. It's wherever this may have come over from some other relationship, but it sounds like the ownership isn't quite right, so we'll get set up first as a member and then reach out to our support team for this work, and they can help facilitate the process to get this situated. We'll definitely do that. Thank you. Of course. Awesome. Alright, thanks Kevin. Thank you. I want to pop you back in the chat. Okay, Amy, so get ready, Amy. Make sure you accept all the Prompts and then Wake and Jessica. While we're waiting for her to join, I just want to a common thing. If you're finding your works in the public database and you're saying, hey wait a minute, I don't have a member and the shares are there, don't panic. When you become a member, we'll be able to then associate those works to your member account, so you still sign up, and then when you sign up you'll see those works will be in your account at that time. So for anybody who was wondering, how do I get those works into my catalog, we'll do it for you. That's a really thank you for that. And Kayla also from the MLC wrote on the chat, the MLC membership is free. Yes, it's free. I know some of the other pros charge you for membership. The MLC is totally free. And actually something really cool about the MLC, and this is part of the law, is that the MLC doesn't actually take a commission. So as Cap BMI, all the others, they take a commission. It's like around something like that they take a commission off the top. So when Spotify pays ASCAP and they're like, hey, here's all the performance royalties, ASCAP takes off about and then pays out the money. When Spotify pays the MLC, hey MLC, here's your mechanical royalties, the MLC literally doesn't take a dime from that. They pass on of the money to the publisher, whoever's registered. So whether it's you, the songwriter, or the publisher. And that's because, so now you're probably wondering, well, how do they make money? Who's paying for all this? Part of the law was that the streaming services, the DSPs, actually have to pay all the administration, all the costs. So that was part of the law. That was this deal that got worked out. Is us. So that's Spotify, that's Apple, that's Amazon, that's Google, that's all of them are literally paying for all these costs, not out of your royalties, mind you, either. So they're not skimming off the top either. They're literally just having to pay them. Amy, hello, are you there? It's a little crazy. Okay, very staticky. Amy, I'm gonna kick you out, sorry. Okay, that didn't work. Wake, you're up next, so get ready. And Jessica, Michael, James, you're on deck here. So get ready. When I accept you, you're gonna have to approve the audio. You're gonna have to go through a few steps to test out your audio and video. And Hannah's wondering, or Hannah, if you'll be signing up for Song Trust for Abner Publishing. Should I wait to finalize that before signing up to the MLC? Yeah, because if you are, well, if you're entering into a publishing administration deal with Song Trust, they're going to do everything on your behalf, so you won't actually need to register for the MLC. So I would get that and let them do all the work. So Jared is wondering, he's in Canada, how does this all work for Canadian songwriters? Sure. So if you are, so we will pay out international songwriters and publishers, but they're for usages in the US. So however, it's a lot of international songwriters or publishers are collecting from a foreign CMO. So it just kind of depends who stands for a collective. The collective rights management organizations or collective management organizations, but you call them EMOs. But give me some examples. What is a CMO? Yes, so one CMO is SOCAN, I believe, is a CMO. PRS is a CMO, and a lot of publishers will collect. They'll let the CMOs collect on their behalf, and then CMOs will pay the publishers. So if you're affiliated with that CMO and you're then there collecting on your behalf, you don't necessarily have to do that. You can collect your own U.S digital audio mechanicals by signing up for the MLC. It's just really important to know that the only market that we're paying out for is the U.S market. So if it streams in the U.S, then that's what you're getting paid on. If it streams in the UK, we're not paying you for that. So just want to make sure that right. So this is a really good point that you know, and I've had these conversations with a few of my songwriter friends. They're like, should I pay the sign-up fee for Song Trust, or should I just sign up for the MLC for free and sign up for ASCAP and do that, or BMI? You know, if you sign up for the MLC and you sign up with a pro like ASCAP or BMI, you're getting all your performance royalties, you're getting your U.S mechanic royalties. But let's say you're huge in Brazil, and let's say you're getting gazillions of streams in Brazil. Just because you're within the MLC, you're not getting those mechanical royalties. Correct. You'll have to collect them. However, you have to collect them in that region, right, which would be from an admin publisher like a Songchester Eccentric or a TuneCore Publishing or something like that. TuneCore Publishing operates essentially the same way as Song Trust. TuneCore is actually bucks, so you can price that out yourself. Okay, let's bring up someone else. Brianna, there she is. She does have a question. But I'm registered with an admin publishing company, but I don't see any of my songs on the MLC website. Would I need to talk to the MLC about that? So Brianna, is that your songwriter name? Brianna Falcone. Let's look this up. I'll pull it up here and we can do it. Let me make sure here it's not tell me your songwriter name, so I can look that up. Brianna, so yeah, it doesn't show that. Any of your unless I'm doing this incorrectly but let me and did you see your songs there? This is what I'm seeing. I've typed that in there and I see under writer name I see nothing, so I don't know. Let's see her last name. There might be a lot of those. Okay, so if you do have a what while this tries to load, if you do have a publishing administration deal, whether that be by way of a CD Baby Pro or perhaps you have a publisher or an administrator and you're seeing mistakes in the database, for example your works aren't there or perhaps your songwriter IP is incorrect or something like that, you need to reach out to that company, that entity, and tell them, hey, here's the mistakes you need to fix. You're paying them so they have a job to do, and we won't be able, we have to, when we edit works or when work edits are submitted, it has to be by the, in order to be accepted it has to be submitted by the entity that has the rights to that. So and yeah, that's a great point. And there's a good question here from Anik Babi: is my distributor, should I sign with the MLC? So here's where it gets confusing when we're talking CD Baby and TuneCore, because there's a, remember our blue circle on our pink circle, well CD Baby and TuneCore, they essentially have two completely separate businesses, but it's all under their umbrella. So CD Baby distribution is the blue circle, and if you just use them for distribution and you don't have anyone collecting that pink circle collecting your publishing royalties, then that's on you. Whether you want to do an admin publisher, whether you want to go directly to the MLC and sign up. However, Babi also has what's called Babi Pro Publishing that you can opt into, that then they will collect your pink circle and they will be your publisher, your admin publisher administrator. So like Lindsay was just saying, if there are errors and you use CD Baby Pro Publishing, that you actually have to opt into that, it's totally separate from distribution. Then you would go to CD Baby and say, hey, my stuff's incorrect, and then CD Baby would have to come to the MLC and fix that. And yes, for those of you who want to get more into insider baseball, will said song just also does this work for CDB Pro options. Yes, Song Trust actually is the one powering the back end of CD Baby Publishing, and Centric is the one powering the back end of TuneCore Publishing, because TuneCore does the same stuff too. Okay, I'm gonna bring up Jessica, and then we'll get to Michael, and then I'm gonna let Lindsay go because we've gone over just a little bit, and I know people are probably pinging her right now being like, where are you, why aren't you on this meeting? Sorry. Okay, and so Wake's question was, I'm signing up for the MLC and I'm a songwriter, but we also just started a publishing company that we registered with as CAP as well. When I answered, do you have a publisher, administrator, CMO, or digital distribution service collecting U.S digital audio mechanic royalties on your behalf, what do I answer? Great question. Yeah, that's a good question. So it sounds like you, okay, if you started the publishing company, it sounds like you started that to represent your own works. So in that scenario it actually doesn't matter. So what we're doing in this line of questioning for becoming a member is trying to prevent people from signing up who actually don't need to. So if you were to select that, if I were you, I would just select that you're a self-administered songwriter if you started that publishing company to represent yourself, and then sign up using that publishing entity name, because that's just the most streamlined way to get to your membership. But if you, so technically you're representing yourself, you're a self-administered songwriter, you're just operating under a publishing entity, or perhaps you did an LLC. Either way, that question's more for like, are you signed with Cobalt or something like that, or do you have an admin publishing administration deal with Song Trust? Hopefully that cleared it up a little bit, but if you do need help getting through that member sign up process, support team can help you. They'll be able to walk you through it. And Wake, that's like when I was saying that thing that was registered as my publisher, Proud Honeybee Music, that's what we call a vanity publishing vanity, because it's not a real publishing company that's going around collecting royalties. It's just a name that a scab asks you to put in there. So if you don't actually have a publishing company, then like Lindsay said, you're self-administered, and that's what you select. Jessica, hello, what's up? Hi, good, nothing. I mean, I don't know, what's your question? Well, I had the same question as I think it was Brianna, where I have a lot of songs registered and my name is just nowhere to be found on the MLC. So okay, so you are the songwriter, do you also have publishing rights to those works? Yes, but I was living in, like, I'm Canadian citizen, I just moved to the States this year, but I started in Canada, so I don't know if that's a problem. But you were talking about the CMOs, is that correct? Yes, so I just checked and I found out that CMRA is one of those in Canada which I am a part of, and I've collected royalties from them. So I just wonder if that's where my royalties Or perhaps without knowing the details of the deal that you have with that organization, it's hard for me to really provide guidance. So if you where you physically live doesn't really matter in this scenario, it's where your work's being used, where are they playing. Okay, so if you were collecting digital audio mechanicals through, I think you said, what did you sorry which the Mura and Sakin. Okay, so if you were previously collecting digital audio mechanicals through one of those organizations, you're likely still collecting from them, but I would check with them and understand the deal that you have with them, and if you haven't received money, definitely reach out to them and say, where's my money now? If it's a situation where they're not collecting on your behalf anymore, maybe they're not registering your works, whatever the deal isn't there anymore, you'll then create a member in the MLC portal, and if you have to claim your share to the works that already exist, you can do that in the portal. So it kind of just depends on what the situation is. I hope so. Yes, it does. Thank you. Are you saying so the deal depends on the deal that I have with them? So are you saying it's possible that the deal that I have with them is for them to collect my MLC royalties? It's possible. It's also possible that they're not. Well, even if your deal is that they should collect your MLC, your mechanicals, your U.S mechanicals, which all will be filtered through the MLC, your songwriter name should still be showing up in the MLC, right, Lindsay? Yeah, if the works are registered correctly, the songwriter name should be there. So if it's not, then Camera just is not communicating with the MLC. They maybe they didn't send in their catalog to the MLC, or maybe they didn't send in your songs, right? That there's a lot of scenarios at play here. It could be what we had come into it just hasn't been updated. It could be that they haven't submitted a CWR file. That's just a way that a large organizations can register a lot of works at the same time. It could be that it's just not registered correctly. So there's a lot. Just because that I don't have, just because that my name is not anywhere to be found on MLC, doesn't mean that I don't necessarily have royalties, correct? Does that make sense? Okay, yeah, it's just a matter of cleaning up the data so that we know who we're supposed to pay. And also keep in mind, unlike the pros, there's the writer's share and the publisher's share. In our world, there's the publisher's share, so we pay the publisher or the administrator, the entity that owns the rights to the work, and then they pay whoever. So whether if you're a self-managed songwriter, that's you. If you're a writer that is administered by a song trust or whatever, then that song trusts and they pay you. Okay, so it could, there's just, as you can see, it can get pretty complicated. So there could be a lot of reasons. And happy to go through and see what's there and see if you recognize anything, but it sounds like you don't see your information anywhere. So yeah, I don't, and I'm not registered with Song Trust or CDB before, or an admin at all. So it might do. Yes, so first step 1, check with those organizations and see what's going on. If they're not collecting anything and they're not registering your works and they're not doing anything with it, then step 2 is become a member and claim your share to those works, and then you can edit those works directly. You can add your songwriter and your publisher on there and claim the share that you have. There will be a percentage of total known shares, so you'll probably have a percentage that's available to claim essentially, and you can claim those, and then the works get registered. Any money that has been collected for usage as of January will be paid retroactively. Anything that landed in the unclaimed or the unmapped, the historic unmatched, we're still working through that process, coming soon. Okay, so there is still backdated royalties before this came into place this year, January st. Yeah, if it's in the unmatched, there is yes, sorry, go ahead, cool. It was a lot of it's million that we collected along with lots of data, so we're still kind of combing through that data and figuring out what our game plan is to pay the proper people those monies. And we only have 3-4 years for people to actually claim their money. Is that right? Yes, it's 3 years, but it could go to 5 years. If we feel like we can take a little bit more time to properly match the money to the person, we will take more time before, but we total after 5 years it goes to market share. So go make sure you register now, because if you don't do this in 3 years you lose all your money. Yeah, okay, thanks Jessica, thanks so much. Everything. Yeah, Michael, hello, hey Ari, hey Lindsay, thanks so much for talking to us today. Of course, my problem I think will be quick. I'm going to turn my screen on. Cool. Oh, can you see? Yes, the MLC. So I have a song on here, and I registered it when I first heard about the MLC. Everything looks good except the recordings. There are 2 recordings. They have the same same artist, same duration, same release date, and that kind of thing just melts my brain. So when I saw that, I got Very confused. Sure, is there something I actually need to do about this or no? No, we are working. This is part of an ongoing cleanup exercise. We are working on cleaning up the recording data. Another thing to know coming soon, which will actually be far more valuable than what you're looking at here, is we are going to be posting the DSP recording data in the portal with your work, so you'll actually be able to see what the DSPs are reporting to us just right in your work registration. So I wouldn't worry about that. I know it's messy. I promise we're working on cleaning up. Cool, awesome, thanks for the reassurance, appreciate it. Of course, awesome. Great question from Marciano here. Our contract with Sony ATV has ended, but they are still listed as administrators at the MLC. What do they do? Yes, so this is pretty common when you've had a relationship with a publisher in the past and it ended for whatever reason. Publishers are historically slow to relinquish. Relinquish means that they release the rights back to you. So what I would do is one, you can reach out to Sony and say, hey, looks like you haven't relinquished these works yet. You need to do that. If they don't respond in a timely manner or they say no, you're wrong, then you can file, or you can start what we call the disputes process. So you would reach out to our support team. They'll facilitate the process, and basically what we do is we would then reach out to Sony and ask for that relinquishment and say so and so it was reported that there is a transfer of ownership. It may require us to get some. What they'll likely do is, the technicality doesn't matter, so I don't want to get too in the weeds about it, but we'll start that process for you, and then Sony will say yep, we're good, the ownership should go back to whoever, or but typically we're able to sometimes get a relinquishment faster. So if you first try Sony, see if you can get it yourself. If not, reach out to us, we'll reach out to them and we'll get it situated. Awesome. Yeah, Jared is asking, how does everyone stay accountable? Is there some kind of database that tracks all the times a work has been played that is independent of the companies collecting and paying out? It's a really good question. Accountability has been a challenge in this industry. So one great thing about the MLC is that this is a public database. So as a self-administered songwriter or just a songwriter in general, we're giving you the visibility to check your data. So what's there is what, like the DSPs, like everybody can see it. So before there wasn't that kind of visibility. So this is probably the closest thing what you're talking about, and that's a great way to at least hold the parties that you're working with accountable and being able to make sure that your information is correct. Awesome. All right, last question. We've gone over quite a bit, but we're gonna cap it here. James, what's going on? Hey man, can you hear me? Yes dude, super happy to be here, thanks so much for taking the time. So I'm a songwriter, I love writing music. I found some of my works on the MLC and all of my works are listed. It says I have 4 titles, which is great, and I've been getting paid out every once in a while through TuneCore, and I just this last year registered with SongTrust, and I'm just noticing that nothing's really coming through SongTrusts. I have 0 total earnings, and I was just curious if what part of like the signal chain I should check to like make sure that something's being processed, or should I just bail entirely and go to the MLC? So if you're wondering if you need like I would ask SongTrust for like your PAR, your statement or your activity, and see. There's a couple of reasons why you may not have been paid. One might be that it was below the threshold, so the streams haven't been enough streams that aren't enough revenue to be paid out. But I would ask you said SongTrust, I think that to ask them for a report of your activity and to understand that. And another thing is the distributors. So I'm assuming you're using TuneCore as your distributor, not JuneCore Publishing. That's correct, right? I believe so. Yes. Okay, you can't actually be with both TuneCore Publishing and SongTrust because they both would be doing the same thing for the same songs. So you have to, if I'm assuming you use TuneCore distribution and then you went to SongTrust for publishing admin, that's okay. But you also want to double check on that, because if you register with TuneCore Publishing and SongTrust, they're gonna be conflicting. So then TuneCore will have registered all your songs, Santra is going to go in there, and they're going to be confused. They're like, wait a minute, it says the TuneCore you can only have one publisher for the song, so that could also be it. So double check with TuneCore that you've only done distribution and not publishing. If you've done publishing, then stick with TuneCore and just go to Songchest and be like, never mind, please delete my account. Now the third option, the reason that you're not getting any money is that distributors pay a lot quicker typically, because when the DSPs pass money on to the distributor will turn that money around days. When the DSPs pass money on to the MLC or to ASCAP. It takes them a while to calculate in crunch, and then they have to pay out Song Trust or publishing or whomever your publisher is, and then they take a while to crunch and do that, so it's way delayed, so much longer delayed. We're talking probably 9 months to a year from that stream, versus with your distributor it's gonna be like 2-3 months from the stream, right? Gotcha. Yeah, because that kind of makes sense, because I'm getting stuff from TuneCourt and it comes in pretty quickly, just sort of trickling in. But yeah, thanks man, cool, awesome. Well, Lindsay, thank you so much for coming on and spending the time with us and the extra time with us. Thank you everyone who tuned in live, everyone who's watching the replay. Thank you for coming and spending this hour plus with us. It's very complicated topic, but I'm happy that we could break this down for you. I'm gonna put a link in this follow up email that you're gonna get also in the description and also in the chat right now, a link to an article I wrote on the MLC, breaking it all down, explaining this a lot further, and my conversation with Chris, the other head of the MLC right now. And I'm also going to put another article I wrote breaking down just all royalties, kind of summing up our conversation today, everything we talked about, which discusses that all. They're so great. Alright, thanks so much everyone, have a wonderful day, take care. Search in video. My name is Lindsay Major, I am the head of customer experience here at the MLC. We are going to dive into the content now. This webinar series is just, you'll remember now what do you do, what are the next steps you take. So for today's content we're going to give you a high level overview of this immediate next steps you should take once you become a member. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about the MLC, what we do, and then we do have, again, this is a series, so we do have some follow-up webinars that will be more specific demos and getting deep into the tools and really detailed there. Today we're just going to give you a breeze through the portal. A couple things before we get started. This is a Zoom webinar, so at the bottom it's a little bit different than a Zoom meeting. At the bottom you'll see there's a chat box and there's a QA box. Please be sure to put all of your questions in the QA. That ensures that I will see them. If you put them in the chat I might accidentally miss it, not on purpose. I'm just looking at the QA. I will answer all questions at the end of the presentation, but please be sure to put them in the QA. Reserve the chat for things our team's going to communicate to you, some helpful links and information like that. Okay, so with that I'm going to share my screen again. Alright, so you're all of you are members, so that's wonderful. We're off to a good start. So first of all, we do like to communicate a lot with our membership to keep everybody really well informed. So when you joined we did ask you to follow our social media accounts. That's a great way to stay informed. But here's some other member communications you'll receive. You will get that welcome email, which all of you probably received since you're all members. You joined, you got that welcome email kind of telling you about next steps, different resources, things like that. You also on a monthly basis receive our monthly member newsletter. This is a great recap of our monthly royalty distribution and other important updates. We also monthly send out an webinar reminder, just some of the upcoming webinars. And we have some really great webinars chock full of great information. So those are some of the marketing communications you'll receive. In addition, you're also going to receive a separate notification in an email about when your statements are available in the portal. So those are the communications that you can expect from us. So the MLC and where we came from. So for those of you who are familiar, the MLC was born out of the Music Modernization Act. That was an act that passed in and it created 3 key components. There's a lot of great stuff in that legislation, but the 3 big things that's important for you all to understand. 1, it created the blanket mechanical license for interactive streaming and downloads. Interactive streaming is the experience that you have like a Spotify or an Apple Music, where I get to pick what I want to listen to when I want to listen to it, for how long, skip, do whatever. So previous to the MMA and the blanket, these digital service providers had to individually license every song that was being played on their platform, and that wasn't a scalable solution. It wasn't really a great way to manage that. So we've created this blanket license that cover all of the uses of those songs. So anytime your song is played on one of those platforms, it's covered under this blanket. The next thing is that the MMA designated the MLC, the Mechanical License Collective, to be the sole administrator of this new blanket license. That means that DSPs are required to send us their data. We crunch the numbers, match it, and we figure out who to pay. But we're the only organization that's able To administer this new blanket license, no one else can do that. And the third really big important thing is that it mandated that the MLC established and maintain a publicly available database of musical works ownership, and our database is almost million musical works, million songs. It's the most robust data set like this out there. There really isn't anything like this out there. So really impactful legislation that passed. So MLC's purpose, our mission is to pay rights holders, whether that's a songwriter, publisher, administrator, whoever it is, accurately on time. Again, we are the exclusive administrator of this new blanket license. So how this works is that digital service providers who are who are involved in interactive streaming and downloads are required to send us all of their data and all of the money associated with that data each month. The MLC crunches all the numbers, figures out which rights holders get paid what. So it's pretty straightforward process, but it does require a lot of activity from our members. We do need our members to go in and participate in their data to make sure that we have it correct, so that we know who to pay and how much to pay them. So one thing that you can do right away, you can do this on your phone, you can do it wherever is, look up your songs in our database. If you're like, I don't even know if I have anything in your database, it's super easy to run a search using our public search that we just talked about. And this is also a tool. This is the only thing that both members and non-members can use, because it's available to the public whether you remember or not. You can use this and look up your data and see what state it's in. Is it there? All those good things. If you are a member, you should log into the portal and claim and look up your works in the claiming tool. Let's see, you notice some works in the public search. If you log into your account and use the claiming tool, you can claim your share to those works that are already registered. It's really important that you do that. Next, if you notice not all of my works are there, you can register your new works using any of our work registration tools. And then once your works are registered in the portal, you'll use our matching tool to match any sound recordings that have been used and haven't been matched to your work yet. And then this is probably one of the most important things, but is often left out. You do need to input your banking and tax information. So I would actually recommend, once you log into the portal, go into your members settings, the banking and tax information, and filling that out right away, just so we know who to send the money to. So I know that was quick. That's kind of the order that you want to go in. I'm going to dive in a little bit more specifically, not getting too in the leads, because again, we do have upcoming webinars where we dive into these tools in a lot of detail, but I do want to give you a breeze around. So the public search, again, this is available to members and non-members. You can look up any work that is registered in our database. If you're looking things up and you can't find them, that means that they're not registered. So you can find that if you go to the MLC.com top right hand corner, you see that yellow public search button. Anybody can access that and you can search by any of these fields. But if you are a member, we have a really great suite of member tools to make it really easy to register your works, keep your data updated, make sure that you're getting paid all the money that you're owed. And this is what we like to call play your part. This is a really critical to our success and our ability to pay you out. So again, first you'll use our claiming tool. You want to make sure that you're claiming your share to works that are already registered. You don't want to register your works new if they already exist, because we'll create duplicates. We can clean them up. It's not the end of the world, but it delays the process. So if your work is already registered, use our claiming tool, claim your share to that work. That will register the work in your catalog, and we'll know that you have some ownership in that. If again you use the claiming tool, you notice I have songs that aren't registered yet. That's fine. We've got a couple of options for you. You can use our individual work registration tool, or you can use our bulk upload. Let's say you've got a couple hundred songs that you need to register, you could use that bulk upload template. And if you're equipped to use CWR, you can do that as well. So I've got a few registration options for you. And then again, once your songs are registered in your catalog, that's when you can go into the matching tool and find any sound recordings that are not yet matched to your song that are being used on these platforms that you need to get paid for, and you can suggest the MLC that they match those sound recordings to your song. But again, that song has to be registered first, so that's why that's the order that your ideal order you should go in. So I know that was pretty high level. I am going to log into the portal in a second and kind of show you what this looks like. But again, and I know you're probably tired of me saying this, we do have upcoming webinars where we're going to demo each tool, get really specific with each, show you all the things, best practices. They'll be really useful webinars, so put these on your calendar. You'll get an email about them like we talked about. Be sure to join these, because though they'll be a great way to really see and learn how to use these tools effectively. We also have our YouTube channel. If you've not subscribed to that YouTube channel you should do so. We've got a lot of really good tutorial videos that you can watch on these tools along with other things. There's webinars. It's a great resource, so definitely subscribe to that. And then at the end of the day, if you need help, that's okay, we've got an amazing support team. They're available Monday through Friday from a.m. to p.m. Central Standard Time. You can call us, email us, chat with us, whatever you need. We're more than happy to walk you through and help you use these tools and get your works registered properly. Lots of great resources at the MLC.com as well. Okay, so with that, I am going to now bring up the portal and show you what this would look like as you're logging in and where these tools are. Again, I'm not going to go into a specific demo on these today. We'll reserve that for the other webinars, but I'm going to show you at least where it is. Another thing to know is what I'm about to show you is a test environment of the portal, so I'm not showing you any data that you're not supposed to be seeing. This is all fake data. We test new features and things in this version of the portal, but it looks exactly like it is our portal. It's just a test version of it. So when you log into the portal, if you're looking for the public search from your member account, it's this right here. You'll click on that and it puts you right into the public search. And again, you can search by several criteria. But if you're looking, you're like I'm going to go right to the claiming tool, so that's the first thing I should do when I'm looking. You'll see on the left hand side we've got everything pretty clearly mapped out. But works registration, this is where you're going to register your songs, whether that's through the claiming tool or through one of these registration options. So under works registration, you'll see this is the claiming tool, and this is where you can search by any of these criteria: work title, publisher, API, song code, whatever you've got. You can add a second criteria, up to 5 criteria. It just kind of depends on how specific you want to be. I'm just going to pop in and show you. So you'll search, and based on whatever you search on, it'll populate a lot of results. It is just based on how you search, so the more specific you get, the fewer results you'll receive. And if you find that you need to claim, you'll see right here it says you have 0 claim shares. This is a work you need to claim. You hit claim, you add your information, and then that work will be registered in your catalog. So that's the claiming tool. Do that first. If you notice then that you've got works that are not right yet registered with us, that's when you'll use one of our registration tools. We've got the individual work registration tool and the bulk registration tool. Just depending on how many works you need to register, will dictate which ones you choose. If you have 1 or 2, the individual registration tool is the way to go. We'll walk you through it. You'll need your work title, your artists or your writer names, your publisher. But if you've got a couple hundred or so, I would recommend using the book work registration. You'll download this template, fill it out, upload it, and then you're done. Super easy, only takes a couple minutes to do any of those things. And then again, lastly, once your works are all registered in your catalog, that's when you can use our matching tool. This is an opportunity to find sound recordings that are being used on these platforms that we haven't yet been able to match to your songs, and that's important because we're crunching the sound recording data, so that's what's being used, and we're just attaching it to the song so we know who to pay. So it is really important that you come into this and make sure that we've got all the recordings matched to your song. Again, you can search up to 5 criteria. Whatever you've got, this one's a little bit different. You can search by recording title and recording is you don't have to, but you can search by writer. So, and again, very similar to how the claiming tool works, you search, it will populate based on the search terms that you put in there, and you can select whatever makes sense and suggests that the MLC matches it. So I know that was pretty fast, but this was meant to be an introduction. We will go into the Q&A. Alright, the first question: can the MLC replace or work alongside of Songtrust? So that's a good question. Songtrust is what we call a publishing administrator. So you engage with Songtrust, you pay a little bit of a fee, you give them your data, and then they make sure that you're registered and all the places you need to be registered, and they're collecting your royalties on your behalf and paying you. Again, it does cost some money. The MLC for this specific set of rights can replace Songtrusts if you wanted to collect directly. But that does mean that you'll need to collect from all the places that Songtrust was collecting from before. So if you really did truly want to be self-administered, that means you need to be established with a pro to collect those monies with us. To collect this particular right, which is a digital U.S mechanical royalty, you'd also need to get distribution and anything on the master side with the performance, so sound exchange, so you can collect that money directly from us, but just you got to know where you're getting all your money from. And we have some pretty good webinars about that, go into very specific details about what we do and what we don't do, and I would recommend definitely checking that out. Okay, that does the MLC collect internationally? We do not, so we are U.S only digital audio mechanicals, not because we don't want to just because by law we have been mandated to do U.S only to gentlemen can't go. If you need to collect internationally you can do that through a publishing administrator or your publisher if you were published. If you want to self-publish then you'll need to find the MLC in those countries. For example in the UK is PRS. Yeah, good question though. Alright, next one, do songs need to be released already or can we register songs that will be released soon? You are able to register songs that will be released soon. Obviously you won't make any money until it is commercially released, but if you'd like to get ahead of the game and have them already registered before it's released you can absolutely do that. Okay, next one, I'm just reading it here. Okay, I've been confused about whether I should be the one to register certain things or not. For example, an artist cut and released a song I co-wrote with him and he distributed it through CD Baby and he does use the CD Baby Pro publishing, so presumably CD Baby will be interfacing with the MLC on his behalf. That's correct. If you have some distributors that should use like CD Baby have a publishing that you can pay for called CD Baby Pro or whatever a distribution. Some of them don't offer that, some of them do, so there's that situation. Or if you just go to publishing admin like a Song Trust, there's several of them out there. They will register your works and collect the money on your behalf. Let me get to the rest of this though. Correct, from searching it seems like CD Baby has not registered the recording or the song yet with the MLC. Should I register a song for my end, or is there any chance it will be registering the song and I would be creating a dupe registration if I do? Okay Brian, so there's a little bit more to unpack here. So if you co-wrote the song with this other person and they are represented by CD Baby Pro, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be collecting from CD Baby Pro also. So I don't know if you have your own CD Baby Pro or Song Trust or TuneCore or whatever, or if you're self-administering, but you need to register your share of that. So you can use our claiming tool, search for the work. I know you said this one isn't registered, but if it were registered that's where you could use our claiming tool and claim your share, assuming there isn't somebody who's supposed to be doing it for you. Now if CD Baby Pro or whoever you may be using for publishing has not registered a song in our database, you'll need to reach out to them and say, hey, the song needs to be registered, and it's not yet, because if they're representing your catalog they're the ones who have the right to register it. If you've retained that work then yeah, you could claim your share to that, but it just kind of depends on what setup there is and if you're collecting your own rights. I hope that answered your question. If you have follow-up just pop them in the QA and I'll address it for sure. Okay, from Mark, I have over songs registered with the MLC several months ago. The claiming tool notified me I had in the black box and I just had to claim them, which I did, but it has not notified me of anything recently. Is there a reason it notified me before but hasn't notified me recently? I'm a little confused by that question, because I'm assuming I'm gonna, and feel free to follow up and redirect me. I'm assuming that you use the claiming tool and you had results, you searched your name, results showed that you needed to claim your share to that. So if you did that then those works are registered and there's nothing left for you to do. We are working on like actively notifying people, but if there's nothing showing up in the claiming tool and you see the works in your catalog, then they're fully registered and you're good to go. If you're talking about the matching tool, similar situation. So the matching tools of sound recordings, where you get to pick which sound recordings are supposed to go to which work and we review it. If you search your name in there or your artist name or your writer name or whatever and you're not seeing anything pop up, that means that we don't have any usages that are unmatched, so you're also good to go. If that wasn't your question and I didn't answer it correctly, please feel free to follow up. Also as a reminder in general, if whenever you have questions, definitely reach out to our support team. They are super knowledgeable and waiting to help, so lots of ways to get help from us. This webinar isn't the only way. Okay, from Stacy, I tried to edit my bank info. Do I need to have songs registered first before I'm allowed to edit an edit button to add my bank? No, you don't need to be have any songs registered to update your banking information. If you are having issues, that's a pretty specific thing that we'll need to look at. If you're having some trouble updating your banking information, reach out to our support team. But no, you do not need to have songs registered to put in banking information. Okay Zane, good question. Is claiming for Senate claim percentage is based on or like pros? So this is that's a great question. So it's 100% is there. You can only claim 100% in the song. It works a little differently with mechanicals and what we do from performance with the PR pros. Do so at the pros for your performance royalties. There's a writer share and a publisher share. With us there's only a publisher share. So because the publishers are responsible for collecting that money and then paying out the writers according to whatever shares or splits they've figured out. So when you register With us, let's say you are a self-administered songwriter, you handle all of your own publishing, you would just register 100% of that work, whereas at the pro you might register a writer-publisher. Here it's just the publisher, so you register. But yeah, that was a great question, thanks. Okay, being a CMO, this is going to be a fun one. Being a CMO, we have publishers as our members also, meaning that we should collect royalties on behalf of them. If I register a new song, there's no way to add a publisher because the system sees us as posters, so I have two options: leave the publisher share out and register claims for less than %, or claim and try to define isolate the share for the publisher. Can be done, but complicated while distributing royalties later. Are you familiar with this problem, and are there solutions? So a couple of things here. Typically with it, like if you could act as the admin, so if you could add the we would you need to reach out and we need to get you set up this way, but we could add the publishers to you, and that way you're the admin. You could designate the publishers, but the publisher share will always be assigned to you because you're the one responsible for collecting that money and paying it out to the publisher. So however you want to facilitate that is up to you. Again, reach out to us and we'll get you set up according to what you're trying to accomplish. You've got a few options. You could also, this isn't the most streamlined way to do it, but if it's easier for you, you could also create a member per publisher and do it that way. But I would recommend taking the administrator route, where you're the administrator, you can designate those publishers and figure out that way. But again, that share will be assigned to the administrator. So hopefully that answers your question, but reach out to our support team and we can figure out the best setup for you. Okay, let's see, just getting through some of these. Okay, from Cynthia: how do we know if the MLC is collecting all our royalties from Songtrust if we are a member of Songtrust and MLC? If our publisher is our publisher, well, the MLC is not a publisher, so Songtrust is your publisher from what's put in your question. So Songtrust is supposed to be registering your works, claiming your share, is doing all the things. We pay Songtrust and then Songtrust pays you. So if you're confused on like how do I see what MLC money is being paid to me from Songtrust, I'd recommend reviewing your statements or reaching out to Songtrust and asking them to explain that to you. So BMI are the publishers. BMI, so BMI is also not a publisher, that is a pro performance rights organization. So they're paying you your performance royalties. So Songtrust again is the publisher who is collecting those money and paying you. Yeah, okay, alright Wayne. Okay, so basically Wayne accidentally registered the same song twice. No big deal thinking that, and this is a common thing, thinking that you need to register both as a songwriter and a publisher. If you have a duplicate registration, reach out to our support team and we can